Were you here today?
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for attending the June 9th, 2026 Ferguson City Council meeting. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for attending the City of Ferguson City Council meeting, June 9th, 2026. The meeting has been called to order. Please stand for a silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk London, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Noah. Here. Councilwoman Covington.
Here.
Here. Councilman Cassoff.
Here.
Mayor Shropshire.
Here.
Councilman Franklin.
Here.
Councilman Palmer.
He excused absence.
Councilman Williams.
Here.
Good evening, everyone. Now we're at the public comment. Everyone is present. We are at the public comment section of our meeting. I want to remind everyone to observe the 3-minute rule. Please speak loud into the mic. And we will respect you. And I'm asking the citizens to respect our council. Make sure you speak loud so the people on Zoom can hear you. Thank you. Clerk London, would you please call the first
Pat Washington.
citizen?
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
This part of the hearing, 222 South Florissant Road, 63135, addressed, correct.
Thank you for stating your address.
So this 3 minutes of tonight's council meeting, I want to use specifically to thank Councilwoman Noah, to thank Councilwoman Covington, and to thank you, Mayor, and you, Councilman Franklin, for supporting the First Schools Out Team Weekend. I know you couldn't be with us, but some of the prep work you did ahead of time and the help chair made it a good weekend. And I wanted to talk specifically about that tonight because there's a lot of things that people criticize our city for. There's a lot of things that people criticize our young people for and speak ill about our young people. But for 2 days, organizations like Ferguson Youth Initiative, Gamers Island, the Creative Spot, a Red Circle, so many organizations came together to provide opportunities for our young people. On the first day, they had creative arts, they had DJ, they had games. The joy that was in my heart just watching kids be kids at 501 Plaza, just watching them play and enjoy being a kid. The second day provided us with an opportunity for our young people to speak directly to the police chief, to our law enforcement, to members of our law enforcement, to members of the community about their experiences living in Ferguson, what it means when they have interactions with police. That was a session that I planned intentionally to try to make sure that we could do what is one of the tenets of the consent decree. And that is to make sure that we connect and provide meaningful opportunities for our young people to have positive engagement with law enforcement. It was an amazing weekend. I thank the Boys and Girls Club. I thank everybody who donated. Good News Brewing, which are they pizza now? I don't know. Go get your pizza, your beer, and your wings all in one place. But I thank them. There were so many people that stepped up. So I specifically wanted to thank you all. You didn't have to be there. And you stayed. I saw you engaging and talking with our young people. You didn't have to do that. A lot of people provide lip service. And they talk about what needs to be done, but when it's time to make it happen, nowhere. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Washington.
Timothy B.
I don't know everybody, but this is my first time here at the meeting. I'm up here about McCoy's Force on Ferguson on Morgan Street. And I've been living there 30-something years. And I've been coming up here complaining about how our community looks. It's horrible, it's terrible, and
Could you speak a little louder, ma'am, please?
I'm sorry.
And I need your name and address, please.
My name is Terry Davis. I live at 721 Marvin Avenue
Okay.
in Ferguson. I've been there 20-something years. And I've been coming up to the code enforcement to try to get the neighborhood cleaned up, what's so not, but nothing been done. And I got this letter, no, for Memorial Day, I brought my husband home from the nursing home. And he was in a bad motorcycle accident. And I want everybody in the neighborhood to come and see him, so I had to clean up. So the 803 Marvin, it was snakes in the yard. So Tuesday morning, I went up to the city hall to let them know. I got brushed off, you know, we working on this and this and that and that and that. 5 minutes later, I get a note that I'm a taxpayer, that I can't come back up to Ferguson anymore because I'm talking about my neighborhood, how bad it looks. And that's embarrassing. I don't even have people come up to my house because the neighborhood's embarrassing. So I don't know if y'all ever rolled down Marvin. It's a mess. And I've been coming to code enforcement, I'd say about 20-something, 15 years. When Wayne was here, nothing's still been done on that street at all. So I just came up here to post my opinion about the neighborhood.
Can we get a copy of that letter? If you give it to our clerk, I'd like to read it.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Henry and Winifred.
Good evening, council. My name is Henry Wonderful. I'm a resident of Ferguson, 17 Honeywell Drive. I'm here because I was here at a budget conversation and I couldn't talk that day. I wanted to make a suggestion to the council, and that suggestion is this. I wrote an open letter on Facebook to the council. I don't know if you guys read it. But my concern is that it would be better to have a furlough than to lay people off. It's better for them to have a job than no job at all until we figure out what is going on with our budget. And to have a budget shortfall is because of, in my opinion, not proper planning. Now, I'm not blaming anyone, any particular individual, but the buck stops with the council and the mayor. What I mean by that, if they don't do well, you're responsible because they are supervisors. And I also had this concern that I want to share with you guys. A lot of people think just because the Trump administration is doing whatever they want to do, that the courts are going to allow you to do whatever you want to do. You made a deal and it's called a consent decree. You consented to do a certain specific performance. And to try to wiggle your way out of the budget, I spoke to the judge last time we were there. When you try to wiggle your way out, you have to face contempt of court. Your attorney can tell you that. And a contempt of court, the Justice Department doesn't have to prosecute you. The judge may impose more financial fine on you than the one you're currently talking about. So I'm requesting that you all think about it before you think about getting rid of your consent decree coordinator or reducing the budget. You made this deal, you have to swallow it. Figure out a way to arrange your budget. I volunteered the last time to talk about, let's look at what you were spending money on. Let's look at this budget. Let's see what happened. Do you need 2 managers or do you need 1 manager? Do you need this? Those are the things that you have to look at before you say, I'm going to do this. Or I'm going to take the recommendation of the department, because the department has been squeezed. The police chief was here begging to keep the officers that we were trying to get, you know. So I don't know what you guys are thinking, but the buck stops with everybody on that. So you need to go back on the table and have a decent conversation. Don't lay these people off. Put them on the fall. Maybe they'll work rotating schedule. Monday, 4 days a week. So, somehow, at least they'll keep food on the table. That's my concern. I took time out. My mother's sick. I don't even know if she's going to make it, but I needed to come and make this speech. I'm leaving after I say this. It is important that we consider the people that work for us and also make sure that we do our fiduciary responsibility. I keep talking about due diligence before we make decision of laying people off. Thank you.
Cassandra Butler,
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Just 3 minutes is not enough. I'm limited to
Ms. Butler, please state your name and
Cassandra Butler,
And your
12
address,
Caldwell
please.
Court. Okay,
Thank you.
so, 3 minutes. So I'm gonna try to get 2 points out. One is that I wanted to address Councilman Kassoff about the council meeting last time or the workshop where he tried to micromanage the police chief by narrowing his options of how he could cut. Specifically, and almost everybody recognized that that was a targeted attempt to make Patricia Washington, who is the public information officer, the target of make it necessary for her position to be cut. What I'm amazed about is that even as council person, you've had the same position when she was initially hired, and your opinion has not developed over that time. Since she's been public information officer, also picked up the consent decree, which wasn't being coordinated very well at all. She's also ended up being public information officer for the whole city. And I recall at a Zoom not too long ago, the former mayor was like, oh, well, I have her on speed dial and she'll put this flyer together today on a Saturday afternoon. She has a lot of positions, and her presence is such a strong influence in how things operates because she's strategic, she sees things, she's so experienced. Moving on to the next, so I'm just so disappointed that your position hasn't developed over time, but I'm not surprised because you don't attend NPSC meetings, you don't attend the town hall meetings that the monitor has. I doubt if you read the report, you don't know what she does. Second point is I want to talk about the budget and comparing the police budget to the fire chief budget. It's different for the fire chief to cut a budget where he was the city manager who approved fire chief budget than to compare that to a fire chief who had to report to the police chief who had to report to the fire chief as city manager. So chances are the fire chief budget is in a different position than the police chief's budget. Also, the police chief's budget fuels or is filling requirements for the consent decree. There, you can't really say, well, he made cuts, particularly if they're personnel cuts, where the police chief did. That's all I got for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Butler.
Valerie Shropshire, Mildred Clines,
Mildred Clines, 7444 Castro. Here we are. And I'm working from the back, the end of my comments to the front, because I didn't want to miss this part. Here we are. We have a dynamic consent decree coordinator that has made certain this city is in compliance with the agreement and the signed contract with the DOJ. I'm a member of the NPSC. and the Police Training Committee. And I know and I see firsthand the outstanding work that's being done by our current consent decree coordinator and our public information officer, Patricia Washington. This position is vitally important in order for the police and the courts to show their accountability. She don't just make sure that the boxes are checked. She makes sure that these officers and these courts abide by the agreement that the city went into with the Department of Justice. Don't eliminate her position. Our eyes are wide open. First off, we've been sitting in the city council audience in these seats since 2014. We've observed racist and bigoted moves made by not only some members of the city council, but by the city as a whole. We've sat while you allow finance directors, city managers, and so-called auditors. They were paraded in front of us and deceived the community about the status of the community. The racist and bigoted and incompetent people have sat in those seats over the years, and that's the reason why we now find ourselves in a budget crisis. It started when the first unqualified, uncertified person was placed in the city manager's position. It continues all the way up to this day when the arrogance of some of the council members determined they knew more than our hired city attorney. It started when elected officials stopped listening to the community and the residents and made decisions that were against the community's best interests. In 2014, the protesters were against the police department and the courts, and rightfully so. Let's be clear, we were not protesting the fire department. We were protesting the police and the courts. Let's make it clear. The fact is, police caught hell from the protest community, and rightfully so. As the budget work session mentioned of division is when council members harass and try to block female Black business owners, and when the council members lie about their residents to win a seat in a ward that's not theirs.
Your 3 minutes are up.
That's true division right there. We've been into consent decree this long because certain council
Ms.
members,
Klein,
staff allows,
Your 3
roll,
minutes are
and
up.
drag their feet throughout this process. The police department needs every single body there. Find somewhere else to cut the budget because the next uprising,
Ms. Klein,
the police would be on our side.
I want to make one thing clear. I don't cut you off at 3 minutes, but I expect you to respect the dais. I understand passion, and I'm 100% for it. But I'm asking you, please, I gave you latitude. I give everybody latitude, not just at the 3 minute mark. I let you roll over, but don't roll on me. Thank you. Next.
Laverne Mitchell.
Laverne Mitchum, 508 Hunters Ridge Drive. I have a lot of concerns this evening, but I only really want to talk about one, and that's Patricia Washington. I got on the council when we had the Mike Brown, and when I got on the council, we signed the consent decree. Now, Pat has been doing an excellent job. And maybe you all don't believe it, but a lot of us want to get from under the consent decree. We really do. We want to get from under the consent decree. And I think it is a very bad move if she's going to be laid off or fired or whatever you want to call it, because I think we've come this far. Now, we've had some others, but Pat has done excellent work. And I think with her, we will soon get from under it. But if you let her go, it's going to cause problems
for all of us. It really is. The judge has made it clear. You can't just throw it to the side because you're tired of it. You don't want it. The judge has made it clear. It doesn't work like that. So I don't know what you all gonna have to do. And John, you and I have always had good relationship, mutually respectful. I think you're a good guy, but you are assistant manager. You are the manager. And I don't want to see anybody laid off, but not Patricia Washington. We need her to get out of the consent decree. So I don't know what you all got to do. And this is what I mean when I say doing what's in the best interest of the people and the city. This is exactly what I mean. It is not in our best interest for you to get rid of Patricia Washington. That is not in our best interest, the city or the people. So don't do it.
Thank you, Ms. Nixon.
That's all.
Maybe she signed it.
I want to be on that right there. I didn't know that was just. Y'all have to. Okay, can I speak still? Cause I was not aware that y'all had that presentation.
She signed it, don't she? Yes, that's fine.
Erica Brooks.
Good evening.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say that when it comes to history and it repeating itself, it's been a while, it's been some years since I first mentioned about the White Declaration of Independence. And I'm sure some people know about it and some people don't know about it. That was something that happened in Wilmington, North Carolina in 1890, where the white people in the community said, you know what, you Black people are not going to be in control of our community anymore. And this is what's happened since somebody brought up Trump's name, wonderful, brought up his name, since his project 2025 started off. That's the new name for the White Declaration of Independence. So you want to read about it before you shoot into me and say, oh, you know, I'm racist and all the other crap. Read your history, understand what's happening before us with a new name. So it came down to the people in the community telling Black people, and most of the time, at that time, it was a lot of mixed Black people that were in authority, whether they were state reps, whether they were the mayor. And the first thing they cut was the voice of the people. And that was the media. They burned that media place down. So Pat Washington is the voice of us Black people here who fought. Some people died. Some people had blood, sweat, and tears. Right about now, yeah, people can sit back and say, you know, we don't need that. That's extra. That's costing us money or whatever. But you have to realize that their voice right there, she's got statistics. She's got history. She has lived through 2014 up until now to where God has positioned her to be able to say, hey, you all been hollering for years. Nick, all of you all that's been sitting up there and the ones that's not sitting up there, holler about how the city is wasting money by doing this consent decree. Well, she's been the person that came to our city, took time out with her team to make sure that you had the statistics to get out of the consent decree if you really wanted to do what it took for what the consent decree said. Not to use Black bodies as a means of revenue, but treat people the way you want to be treated, whether you wear a badge or not, period. So to be able to say, it's like, you know, Williams is hollering about, you know, it's wasting our time to have this consent decree. We want to cut it. And then we wait till December to see what's going on. Then we bring it back. But now you want to cut the person that's the heart of the solution. That don't make any sense. If you want to stop it and go by what the rules and stipulations were that the judge said. So like I said, you want to go back and read the White Declaration of Independence and understand what's happening here in Ferguson. It's a White Declaration of Independence that's happening. That's saying we don't need you all, we don't need this black voice no more to give us what you say is gonna help us get out of this bigotry. So, White Declaration of Independence, read it. Understand what you're working with. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the public speaking part of our agenda. We move to the manager report. City manager, is there a manager's report tonight?
Yeah, I'll be brief. Mayor and council, I just want to remind everybody that we do have the Juneteenth celebration this Saturday. It's at Forestwood Park from 2 to 7. And encourage everyone to come out. It was on social media today from the city's website if you need details. I understand we're still looking for volunteers. If you want to contact City Hall, you can still be a part of that if you'd like to. But that's all I wanted to give for the update this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, city manager. We move to special presentations. We have this evening a presentation from the auditors. Auditor Sherville?
Jim Smershel, Your Honor.
Oh, Schmershel.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry, thank you. That's like Shropshire. Hard to
Yes, sir.
pronounce. You got to get it right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Jim Smershel with the CPA firm Smershel Treloar. I'm one of several audit partners in the firm. And along with Ethan Welpley, we were the primary audit team for the audit of the city of Ferguson for the year ended June 30 of 2025. I appreciate that you're not going to hold the auditor to 3 minutes because I love to talk about numbers. And I want to go into some detail for you. The city council has previously received a copy of the draft audit, waiting only for your approval. That's 61 pages. And so rather than try to go through all of that detail, we have prepared and given all of you a summary document that will capture the pertinent information that's otherwise included within the audited financials. And so I'll be walking through this and so that the members of the community can see as well. It'll be simultaneously put up on the screens, so they'll be seeing the exact same thing that you all are as we walk through the numbers in detail. We're gonna, and by the way, I wanted to thank the members of the city staff and Clifton Larson Allen, your accounting consultants, for their hard work as well in pulling together the accounting information so that we could do the audit. The document that we're going to walk through starts with a variety of AICPA required communications. I'm going to walk through somewhat quickly, but I do want to touch upon all of them because they are at the heart of the concept of the audit and the manner in which it was prepared. And so the first, on the third page in, you will see something that says Auditor Communications. And it's addressed to the mayor and members of the city council. This is a summary of the audit opinion, and it says that the 61-page audited document that you received is receiving a clean audit opinion from our firm in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and governmental accounting standards. The next page that says qualitative aspects of accounting practice. It's important to remember that although our job as auditors is to validate and verify the numbers, the actual preparation of the numbers, the maintenance of the accounting records is the responsibility of the city council as delegated to the city manager and any consultants such as Clifton Larson Allen. On the next page, a reminder that accounting includes not only real expenditures and revenues received, but also estimates of things that are going to happen. And the most obvious and largest amount that is estimated is the pension liabilities. And we're going to walk through that in some detail as we go through this. You have a number of disclosures on the next page, a number of disclosures in the 61-page audit document that you've received. As a geek auditor, I will tell you all of the disclosures are important. However, we call out specifically the disclosures on cash, the capital assets that you have as a part of the infrastructure of the city in Note 5, the employee retirement fund and the status of the obligations of the city in Note 9, and various contingencies that the city would otherwise have. In performing our audit, there were no disputes, importantly, no disputes over access to accounting records. We were given access to anything that we requested the opportunity to review. And there were no disputes or disagreements over the presentation of financial information. We turn 2 more pages to the statement of net position. These are the assets of the city. While the titles are somewhat self-explanatory, I want to touch on a few of the dollars just to highlight some issues. Cash and investments at June 30 of 2025 were at $9,327,000. That's down from $18,716,000 in the previous year. So that's down by over $9 million from 2024 to 2025. And while there's obviously thousands and thousands of expenditures that make up that decrease, a few items I wanted to highlight. You had an unusual payment of $2 million for the satisfaction of the class action lawsuit that you settled in a previous year. That was accrued as a liability in 2024, paid out in 2025, and obviously pulled down your cash at the same time. You also had ARPA funds, COVID monies that you had received that were sitting in your bank account, which you were obligated to spend within a certain period of time. You expended $2,334,000 roughly of ARPA funds in 2025 on streets, as you'll see later. And so that also was sitting in your cash and pulled that balance down. You made a payment, and we'll discuss it later, a payment of almost $500,000 towards your pension obligations that the city has towards employees. That payment should happen every year. As we'll see, that payment wasn't made in 2024 and 2023, but it was made in 2025, and so it also pulled down your cash balance. You also had bond interest and principal payments of $2.5 million. That was greater than it had been in the previous year by about $1 million. That pulled down your cash balance, and you purchased a substantial amount of equipment, as we'll see in a moment. That also pulled down the cash. And so that's a big picture of from 18.7 million to 9.3 million in cash at June 30th, 2025. Most of the rest of the assets that you see on this page, the receivables from sales tax, property tax, other items, miscellaneous receivables, lease receivables of $724,000, prepaid items of $300,000. All of these items are very comparable to what they were in the previous year. There's nothing unusual there. Inventories of $129,000. The other number that changed dramatically on your list of assets, on your balance sheet assets, is the capital assets. You see that capital assets, which is purchased items less the depreciation, and we'll see a detail of that in just a second, were $41,995,000. Last year, that was $36,600,000, a net increase of $5.3 million. That's a net increase in the infrastructure of the city that you all paid for with cash and debt of $5.3 million. And that you get there with $7.6 million in capital asset additions, less 2.3 million in depreciation expense allocated against those assets, which gets you to the 5.3 million that asset line item increased. The 7.5 million that you purchased, 7.6 million that you initially acquired. We're going to touch on that just briefly because you had 2.3 million in ARPA monies that we discussed a moment ago in the cash decrease. Those monies were spent on street improvements and were capitalized appropriately. That's in that 7.6 million. You also incurred debt of another roughly 3.5 million, much of which you paid down during the year as well. But you did incur additional debt to finance some of those assets. And then the rest came out of cash that paid down the cash balance as well. Now, on the next page, we just spent a lot of time talking about capital assets. So capital assets additions is what's on the screen and also in front of you in your packet. Capital asset additions, you'll see the beginning of the year, you had $4 million of construction in progress, items you were working on that weren't complete yet at that point, and another 68,471,000 in assets that you owned that had been fully completed, constructed, or purchased. During the year, you spent $3 million in additional construction of improvements, mostly in the streets area. Of that, you finished 2.3 million of it that ended up in the additions down below. So if we look at the capital assets being depreciated section, which is the bottom half of this page, you see buildings and improvements. You started the year at 33.3 million. You added another $989,000. Most of that was in playground activities. So you spent $773,000 on playground improvements for the community. You had machinery and equipment of another 231,000 added during the year, added that to the 4.8 million that you started the year with. We did notice there was a drone purchased in there for some 40,000 and a bunch of other items as well. The motor vehicles, you started the year with 6,800,000 of purchases before depreciation. You added 2,566,000 in motor vehicles, principally 2 fire trucks and several police vehicles. And the fire trucks were the lion's share of that 2,566,000. Infrastructure at 2,334,000. Those are those same ARPA funds that we've talked about before. That's where that money landed, is in infrastructure and specifically in improving your streets. And lastly, 1,368,000 in fleet upgrades for leased items that you incurred. So significant increases to your capital assets. The page after that is simply the accounting depreciation that goes against that. I'm not going to spend any time on that. That simply is what it is. Total assets of the city, 57 million. 57 million in total assets, of which 41.9, almost 42 million of which is in bricks and mortar, streets, buildings, and equipment. You also have liabilities of the city on the next page and on the screen in front of the community. The liabilities, the first 2 items are very comparable to what they were last year. I mean, obviously they aren't the exact same number, but 963,000 in accounts payable, some wages and benefits payable simply because of the way that the weeks fall and payments get made, of 618,000. The next line item, other liabilities, last year, that $652,000 that you see last year, that was 2.5 million. It went from 2.5 million to 652,000 because that 2.5 is where the accrual for the city settlement for the class action that $2 million liability was in other liabilities at 2.5. So the rest of that is business as usual. Accrued interest payable on your debt, and we'll see your debt in more detail in a moment. Unearned revenue of $559,000, most of which is still ARPA funds, by the way. Last year, that number was $2.8 million. And again, that was mostly ARPA funds. So when you spent 2.3 million on the streets that we just saw, it pulled down that liability to 559,000. The next two numbers are debt. Debt that you have to pay in the next 12 months and debt that you have to pay for several years hereafter. 2,811,000 of principal payments on bonds, notes, and leases are due in the next 12 months. Another 8,869,000 is due in future periods. The total of those two is 11,682,000. That's up by about $1.5 million from where it was last year. It is the net of almost $3.5 million in total leases and notes that you entered into, and then payments of roughly $2 million. And we're going to see that detail in just a second. The net pension liability of $1.1 million, we'll look at that in a moment as well. That's up over $1 million from where it was last year. We'll talk about how you got there. Total liabilities of 16,088,000 plus other deferred inflows at 2,904,000. Now, before we look at your equity, which is to say your net assets, I want to drill quickly into two of the liability classifications we just touched on. On the next page, your long-term debt position. This is the long-term indebtedness of the city, which you and your predecessors entered into to finance capital additions that created the infrastructure of the city that the community lives in. The first is the 2013 certificates of participation. You can see in the 1, 2, 3, 4th column from the left, second column from the right, balance end of year, 4,215,000 in certificates of participation from 2013. Those are the monies borrowed to build the community center that you all have and use today. The series 2019 indebtedness of 508,000 at year end was borrowed to purchase a pumper. At that time, the general obligation bonds with a balance of 2,785,000 were spent upon their original issuance on a firehouse improvements. Excuse me. People say the numbers are dry.
Yeah. they are.
I'm doing my best, but it's important. The rest of the section of debt is items that you financed or leased this year in the acquisition of the fixed assets that we just discussed. The other item I want to touch on is the pension liabilities of the city. Now, I will tell you in general terms, your pension liability is better than many other communities. It's not perfect, but I've seen many other communities and other governmental entities that we audit and that I've reviewed their financials where their pension funds are not nearly in as good a shape as this. Having said that, it has slipped a little from where you had been. If you look at the very bottom of this sheet, we're going to start at the bottom, then we're going to move around. The very bottom in the left-hand column, 2025, you see that you are funded at 96.6%. Now, I'm here to tell you, there are lots of governmental entities that would die for a 96.6 funded ratio. So that really is a strong ratio. And what it really does for you is it ensures that you're not chasing that liability to set with future monies, and you haven't saddled future members of the community with pension obligations that were incurred in the past. So you're in generally good shape. Now, having said that, if you look one column to the right, you see that last year you were at 99.8% funded. The year before that, you were at 98.1, 97.5. So while 96.6% is a strong funded ratio, and many cities, as I said, would love to have it, you slipped a little bit, and let's talk about how and why. If we look in 2025 for a moment, and specifically look in the middle section, planned fiduciary net position, those are the assets of the plan. And the first number you see is $445,676. That's the money that the city paid in to the pension plan as directed by the actuary who manages the plan's performance on an annual basis. So you received something from the actuary that said, hey, you should pay in $445,000, and you did. I'm pointing that out because you look to the right of that. The city did not make those those strongly suggested payments in 2024 and in 2023. And so that impacted the city's pension liability currently. So let's go back to 25. You saw the 96.6%. The number right above that is the net liability that the city has under actuarially determined computations towards the pension plan. And it says you are $1,100,000 underfunded. And to be specific, you have assets of $31,374,000, and you have liabilities actuarially determined of $32,482,000. That leaves you with a liability of $1.1 million. Had the city made those payments, which would have been in the neighborhood of $500,000 in 2024 and in 2023, I believe your funded status would be close to 99.9% again this year, because that $1 million would have gone against that liability and you'd be almost even on the board. You are where you are. It's our job to report that, but that's how you got there. Now, the other things I want to point out, if you look up in the liability section, you have actuarially determined liabilities of $32,482,000. That's sort of the middle subtotal of this schedule. It consists of charges for the service cost each year of employees who are working. It consists of interest charges from the fund that get applied into your liability. And those two numbers come up to be $2.3 million. Those are additions to your liability. There are some items that jump out as new this year. There's $1,143,000. That's a change in benefit terms. There's $1,003,000 in change in assumptions. Now, I'm in the weeds a little bit with you, but these are big numbers. There was changes in the benefit assumptions associated with your plan and changes in the expectation of the inflationary pressures that your plan will be subject to, and some changes in the accounting rules that are associated with all that. All of that is what drove that $2.2 million of unusual items that hit your liability. So two things hit you this year. That unusual set of liability increases that, if you look to the right, weren't there in previous years, and the fact that you underfunded the plan in 24 and 23. So now you have $1.1 million liability. Now, I want to say again, that's not bad. Truly not bad. It's just not as good as it was, and I wanted you to understand how you got there. The last, and I promise, the last thing I'm going to cover. The equity of the city, which is in governmental terms is called your net position. The equity of the city is $37,882,000. Now, before you celebrate and head to the Bahamas with that $37,882,000, let's talk about what that consists of. of that 37,882,000, the net investment in your capital assets, the items that you purchased, buildings, streets, equipment, less the debt incurred to acquire those, that number is 31,336,000. So of the 37,882,000 of equity that the city has, 31,336 is in bricks and mortar. Harder to spend. The next several items, the 1,191,000, the 2,054,000, the 882,000, all of those items, all of those monies that are in your cash account, all of those monies that are in your assets are restricted for specific purposes. So you have 1,191,000 that's restricted for parks. You have another 2 million that's restricted for debt service. So while you've got a slug of money there, it's restricted for specific purposes that you can use it for, which limits your flexibility in terms of budgetary purposes. Then the last number, the unrestricted, the net truth is you have a negative unrestricted fund balance of $1,828,000, which says that at the end of the day, after everything else is accounted for, you have more liabilities than assets that aren't otherwise in infrastructure or specifically restricted for your use. So that would be the challenge that you face as a community. Now, very quickly, I'm going to touch on famous last words. Very quickly, I'm going to touch on the very last page, the statement of activities. I spent a lot of time talking about your assets and liabilities because that forms the foundation that you have to work with and the obligations that you have to deal with on a go-forward basis. The statement of activities reflects what happened during 2025. And let's go to the very bottom on the very right-hand side. The very right-hand side, the last column, the second last number says change in net position, $1,720,000. That's the amount of money that the city had as a shortfall this year on the accrual basis. You lost as a city $1,720,000. Now let's talk about the pieces and parts that make that up. We're just going to work from the bottom up. We're going to talk about revenues and then expenses. You all have 18,884,000 of general revenue. I'm sorry, I'm going to take one step back. This year you lost $1,720,000. Last year you had a surplus on the same basis of $1,927,000. So that's a swing of 3.6 million. Now we're going to talk about how that came to be. Revenues of 18,884,000. Revenues, the biggest piece of that is sales tax. You see the grouping there, sales tax of 11,681,000, property taxes of another 3,360,000, utility taxes of another 3 million, and so forth. 18,884,000. That number is not dramatically different than it was in other years. Last year, it was slightly higher at 19 million, but really in the same very close range. If we go up along the second grouping to the top grouping, the capital grants and contributions and operating grants and contributions, those numbers together, that $4.45 million, those are grants you received that were put into revenue. The biggest single item there, and we've talked about it now several times, is the ARPA funds. $2.3 million of ARPA funds are in those revenues you received in previous years, but you weren't allowed to recognize them as revenue till you spent them, in this case on the streets. So $4,450,000 in grants. That number is up about 200,000 from what you had last year. So your grants are up 200,000. The general revenues we just talked about are down by 100 or 200,000. You're pretty much even at that point. Charges for services, 1,667,000. That's monies that community members paid to access services, parks and recreation and other items. That number is down about 150,000 from last year. Yes, sir.
You had stated we had a surplus last year versus this year. Do you remember what that number was?
The bottom line was $1,927,000.
That was the surplus
That was the surplus.
on paper. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So now we're still pretty much even in terms of revenues. So it's in expenditures that it got away from you. Your expenditures this year, you see are $26,726,000. Last year, that very same number in that far left-hand column, that very same number was $23,295,000. That's an increase of $3.4 million from one year to the next, and accounts for the lion's share, obviously, of that $3.6 million swing from a surplus of $1,927,000 to a deficit of $1,720,000. Those expenditures, let's talk about the increases to that number. The first piece of it is a little bit out of your control because it's interest and depreciation. The interest this year versus last year is $120,000 more than in the previous year. So this year, the interest was $385,000. Last year was $265,000. So interest is up $120,000. Now, you have no control over that to the extent that it comes from the bonds and leases that you've entered into. You have complete control over it to the extent you borrowed the monies. But now that you have those monies borrowed, that interest cost is baked in. That increase of $120,000 reflects that. Your depreciation expense, which is the accounting wear and tear on your infrastructure, on your buildings, on your equipment and so forth, that number is up $780,000 from where it was last year. And it's up by that much because in the last 2 years, you've had capital additions of 11.3 million. Now, some of those capital additions were paid for with ARPA monies. And so that was federal monies that you had to use or lose. So you appropriately spent it. The rest of it were just monies that you spent on, we just detailed what you did this year. Our trucks, playground equipment, other vehicles, other equipment, all of those things drives your depreciation expense. So it's up. So those two items together are over $900,000 that really is out of your control. The big number, however, is if you take, and it doesn't surprise you, right? Because cities run on people. And if you look at the increase in your salaries, benefits, Social Security, health insurance, pension cost, that is up year on year, $1,873,000. So that is by far and away the biggest piece of that. So that 1,873,000 plus interest and depreciation of almost $1 million, you're at $2.8 million of the deficit. You also had an additional $150,000 that was spent on nuisance abatement from the previous year. Buildings and grounds expense are up almost $400,000. When you add those four items that I just detailed, or five, when you break down interest expense, that's $3.3 million. And that is what drove the results for the city for the year. Now, I've just gone through a lot of detail and I appreciate you bearing with me. It's important to get that. I'm happy to take questions as well, sir.
Yeah, I've got a few questions. Question number one, you have a negative balance in the unrestricted net position of $1.8 million. how is that different than what we have in our budget for year-end general fund balance?
That's a, Nick, that's a strong question. What we just did in detail is the accrual basis financial statements of the city. For governmental accounting, the AICPA, in her infinite wisdom, came up with two different ways to do accounting for cities. One is the accrual method, which is more representative of a business and which we've just gone through. The other is a fund level discussion, and that's also in the audit, where you will see the general fund, the Parks and Recreation Fund, all of the individual funds are listed, and that is accounted for on the cash basis. So-
Cash basis, okay,
So it's apples and oranges.
okay.
The pension liability, for example, doesn't.
So what
exist.
you're saying is we have general fund obligations that exhaust our fund balance and then another 1.8 million beyond that
Yes,
is
sir.
the bottom line.
Yes, sir. I mean, one perfect example is you've got the 1,000,001 in pension liability that does not get recorded in the cash basis statements because that's an actuarially determined accrual. So that's $1,000,001 all by itself.
Well, but pension liabilities aren't general fund, that's a separate fund.
Oh, fair enough. but
And they're
that's-
also not general, unrestricted net position, are they?
They are unrestricted.
Pension assets are not unrestricted net position, are they?
No, but the liability belongs to your unrestricted operations.
Okay, okay. Okay, second question. You said we are in great shape in regard to our pension funding compared to other cities. I don't know what is proper or what is considered a minimum, but I wish you would address the possibility of what the impact would be if we were to not make a pension contribution during the coming fiscal year. In terms of, does that put us in any sort of danger, or are we in such good shape that we can afford to do that again?
Well, as a CPA.
Disclaimer,
That's
disclaimer,
okay.
not an actuary.
No, I get it. No, but as a CPA, I'm always reluctant to say, don't pay the actuarially suggested amount. However, your pension funds are a strong position for the city. And if you're desperate for money, you could forego that contribution. And what happens is as your liability increases, as the unfunded amount increases, then the required contribution in future years has to go up to cover the new deficit. So it's almost like borrowing money against the future pension plan payments that have to be made. But you certainly can do it, sir.
But like, we didn't make a payment in 2023, but the percentage went up.
Yes, sir, because there's lots of impacts. There is the market results, because
Right.
you have 31 million in assets under management. And so if the market goes up more than the actuaries anticipated going up, that will serve to your benefit. If the liabilities that are actuarially estimated turn out to be lower than they thought, then the liability doesn't get impacted enough. So there's a myriad of computations that go into that. So yes, it's certainly possible to not make a contribution, and yet your funded status could go up if the market does better than the actuarial estimates.
Okay. One final question, and this is a general one, and it's not specific to your firm, because I think you haven't been doing this for Ferguson. You're relatively new, right?
With regard to Ferguson, yes, sir.
With regard to Ferguson.
Yes, this.
So One of the things that a lot of people have asked me, and I really don't have a good explanation for it, is we get one of these every year from various firms that have done these for us. And they've always said, great audit, everything's fine. But yet, when we came into budget this year, came to find out that there were some substantial errors in our cash basis fund balances due to incorrect things that previous finance directors did. And to your average person, when you get an audit, you would think that millions of dollars in discrepancies in funds would be something that an audit would show up. But yet I've been told that's outside the scope of what this annual audit does. And I wish you could explain that.
The audit has to reflect what's actually spent and actually transferred in any given year. There were transfers and other payments that had been budgeted or authorized, but had not been implemented in the period that was being audited. And those were identified, and to be candid, our firm identified that those items weren't happening. And since they weren't happening, they couldn't be in the audit. So we identified last year and again this year that was not recorded because it hadn't happened. The transfers hadn't been made. And so the audits reflected not what perhaps the budget might have wanted to have happen, but what actually happened. And so your frustration, I understand, because you thought these things were set up to happen, but they hadn't actually happened. So the audit reflected what really happened. So this year, they reflect the fact that you all went back and said, we had to catch these up. And so then it's reflected in this year's audit.
Okay, no, I mean, my main frustration is that people ask me, hey, why didn't the auditor? And I don't have a good answer to that. And I'm gonna have to digest what you said because there's a lot of people that are saying, hey, why do we all of a sudden have this financial situation when the budget last year said we had millions of dollars here and millions of dollars there, and it turns out we didn't. And I just don't have a good explanation for that. And that's what really troubles me.
The only additional thought I will add to that for you as you analyze that, and by the way, it's not a simple process to do all that comparison. The net impact to the city overall, right? The total was zero because it was simply transfers that hadn't been made between funds. And so the total expenditures didn't change, total revenues didn't change. It was the allocation of dollars, as you may have just said, between certain funds that hadn't been effectuated at the time and now have.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Franklin.
So just to piggyback off Councilman Kassoff's comments. So the council was told that we got into this financial issue because our finance directors, multiple finance directors, were overestimating our tax revenue from sales tax to Prop P money, et cetera. And so I guess in my mind, when you're conducting these audits, and I think our last finance director told us he had done 3 audits in the last 16, 18 months while he was here. I mean, so an audit wouldn't catch those over projections because it looks like I went back and watched some of our budget hearings over the last 2 years. And this council before us, I think it was your first year on council, Kassoff, you guys had concerns about the projected numbers for sales tax. I think Councilwoman Robinette had concerns. She noticed, hey, there's a 14% increase in expenditures and a 14% decrease in what our revenue looks like. But somehow those budgets that were presented were balanced. You know, and now we're seeing years later that they really weren't balanced. And so it's frustrating for us because it seems like nobody on staff caught it while it was happening. All the money we spent paying auditors, no one caught it. And now here we are, and we have this little financial issue or crisis. And then, in my opinion, there's little accountability for what actually happened, because you go back and watch those budget meetings, it's not the same tone that we're hearing tonight about where we were 2 years ago. And I think that first year you were on council, Cassoff, you guys balanced the budget, but based off the numbers, there was like a $4.6, $4.8 million shortfall.
Yeah, it was a fake budget, bottom line.
And that's very troubling.
So I'd like to tell you that auditors know it all. The reality is we're limited to what actually happened. And so when you talk about sales tax, for example, we confirm the amount of sales tax that you received specifically from the state. We audit that number. We ensure the monies were appropriately and timely deposited. It's not a part of our engagement to help put the budget together. And so
I get your point, and you weren't here 2 years ago, but I guess what you prepared to us tonight kind of shows us why we have the deficit we have currently. But 2 years ago, that audit didn't say, hey, 4.8, 4.6 deficit, because if it had, the council at that time, which was an experienced veteran council, maybe they don't make some of those expenditures in capital that they did to where we are today. So I guess my whole point is I don't want to spend money on audits and it's not beneficial to the city as far as it relates to keeping us out of financial trouble. And I'm just trying to see how that audit didn't happen, and it didn't show those line items at that time, because I went back and watched it. April, I think May 15, 2024. It sounds good. The biggest issue was conferences. That's what they debated for about an hour. The budget, there were just questions and, oh, everything is fine. And now here we are.
Well,
in this
the
situation.
audit's purpose is to ensure that your all's fiduciary obligations over the preservation of assets, the controlling of liabilities, the collection of monies you're entitled to, and the expenditure of funds in accordance with budgeted and obligations of the city are appropriately recorded and reflected. And that does have value. However, it's not a forward-looking instrument.
Got you. And well, at least our pension is in good shape. Appreciate you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Auditor. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I do have to say, I do a lot of these presentations for governmental entities. You all ask good questions. I appreciate sharp understanding and trying to get to the bottom as opposed to just nodding and moving on.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate you. We move to public hearings. Fiscal year 2026-27 budget. We have a fiscal year 2026-27 budget. City Manager, can you provide any information on this hearing?
Yeah, Mayor and City Council, the budget was attached to the document. The public hearing is just for the public to discuss any topics they wanted to include in that budget. And I'll default to Lavetta to go through that list.
Henry Winnick. Valerie Shropshire. Dr. Jackie Lewis Harris.
Valerie here?
You said
Valerie, I'm sorry.
Don't dabble me tonight. All right, sorry here. I'm on the clock yet? Okay, so I'm a bit concerned. Oh, I'm sorry. Good evening, everyone. Mayor and council.
Name and address.
Okay. I'm a bit concerned how,
Ma'am, your name and.
I'm sorry, Valerie Shropshire, 709 Forest Avenue.
Thank you.
I'm a bit concerned how we got here. It seems to be that it just kind of happened when at the same time that this had been building over a course of years, maybe 2 or 3, however it was. And it surprises me that the sitting council and the sitting mayor doing at any given point that either wasn't presented with accurate information or something was not conveyed or something was hidden, and that's troubling. And I would think that whereas a regular audit, just as was explained, you know, find some things, explain some things, but I would highly suggest that a forensic audit happens and audit certain line items, you know in detail how the ORCA funds were spent, to know in detail that the master vendor list is true and legit, money's being paid out, that there's no opportunity for fraud, there's no opportunity for mishandling of funds. And I would just hope that this time next year, the city, when I say the city, I mean the residents, surprised that, we are where we are now. And I also want to say that I really respect my husband for taking this position, because we could be in Florida or we could be anywhere, but I support his decision. I stand by him. He's faced, he's gotten a lot of criticism, and he's just as blind as some of you. When he ran for this position, I don't think he knew that this was going on. And I would just hope that those who speak against him would show him grace. And then ask yourselves, what would you do? It's you can point out problems, but can you help find solutions as well? Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Jackie Lewis Harris.
Good evening, council, and I hope you all got our letter. I'm speaking for MPSC. I sent out letters on MPSC's statement on the backing of Patricia Washington, and also I sent out MPSC's statement on the budget and management of the budget. Basically, I'm speaking for the fact that I have worked on MPSC and the police training since its beginning, and I've worked with all the coordinators. And I would say that Patricia Washington was the most expert, most professional, and moved us along very, very fast. Many of us were about to walk away. Some people had walked away. And then when she came in, because she had been supporting Chris previously, who was the acting coordinator. When she came in, she helped us get things back in order. It's not a simple job. It's like a job as if you're a spider, you have 16 legs instead of 8 legs, and you're trying to coordinate all this together, along with the community coming down on you. So the thing I want to say is that she needs to stay. We're close to finishing. When she came into that position, she moved us ahead at least a year. So all you folks who wanted to finish the decree right now, you should think of this as a way to fast forward to ending the decree rather than setting us off backwards again. Because she actually helped us to sit down and focus and see exactly what we need to get done. It's sort of like building a house. You have it all framed up, and then you decide to go over to a high school shop class and have them come in and finish your house. How much sense does that make? That's what we're looking at. And lastly, I'd like to say, is it against the law or is it against Robert's rules for a council member to basically expose the budget, cut back on a person's salary, make comments on Facebook, which is a common source of material that everybody can use? Is it against the law? I thought it was supposed to be closed session when you're speaking about somebody's salary. So I'd like to know, Mr. Castle.
Erica Brooks.
Erica Brooks, 416 Mueller. I just want to say once again that pretty much piggybacking off of everyone else is dealing with maintaining the person and her team, Ms. Patricia Washington, that's actually taking the city into a positive direction, fulfilling the obligations that the city was all gun-ho to do in order to get out of the image. Because council people some years ago, they got this new branding, you know, to put a facade up for Ferguson, so they didn't have the same face of Ground Zero. So they got this little new leaf, turn the new leaf thing, but you turn the leaf over, but you're still doing the same thing on paper. You're not out there in the streets, or people not burning down buildings, they're not doing other stuff that's costing the city financial, you know, despair. But you want to go to the paper and say, we're gonna put it in black and white, and we're gonna cut things, we're gonna do things to kind of turn it around, and you not really see what we're doing, but we're gonna help you economically feel it, because we're gonna take out the people and the positions that actually have moved you forward and got you out of this whole consent decree, you know, little by little, not all the way, but it's like most of the time, just like things happen in history, most of the time, Black people, they do things to clean stuff up. And just when it's almost done, white people kind of like cover it up and say, you know what, we don't need your help no more. Okay, we got it. Okay, so then you have Black people that want to hop on board and say, well, we don't need that. That's not important no more. No, it's very important. Because if people treated people the way they should have been treated, you wouldn't have had that whole thing in 2014. It wouldn't have been something that's been blown up and, you know, we got lawsuits. Now, speaking of lawsuits, we want to stop and think about how much the city has been paying in that direction and how much they're still obligated to be paying right now. Not talking about just the consent decree, but how much more money is being spent on lawsuits and sucking the city into a hole on that behalf, okay? So, but I'm gonna get back to this whole thing of understanding that once again, Patricia Washington is the key to help you move forward, to get out of this turning a new leaf thing here, actually doing it, turning a new leaf by going through the process it takes in order to fulfill the obligations of the consent decree. Not just cover it up and say, you know what, we done. We done. We don't need nothing, you know, nothing else from you all. Just a piece of paper, yeah, whatever. Once the people of the city of Ferguson and all departments start treating people of all colors, especially Black people, that they utilize the way they want to be treated, you won't have this. We won't have this constant meeting about consent decree. Keep Patricia Washington so she can get us out of this whole thing, not just by turning a new leaf, but by fulfilling the consent decree's obligations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks.
Mildred Klein.
Mildred Klein, 7444 Castro. There's a saying now, it says, leave Black people alone. I don't know if y'all heard it. It says, leave Black people alone. So I'm gonna coin a new phrase. Leave Ferguson's police department alone. Let it stay intact. find the money somewhere else. Because if their last resort is to, not write our consent decree coordinator and our public information officer out of the budget, that's not gonna work good for our city. The budget, I was sitting here listening to the auditor, and for me, someone who's been sitting in this room for the last 11 years or more, because I didn't start coming in 2014, I used to come before then. And I'm listening now, I have no faith, have no confidence, because before I did, because they came and they presented this beautiful picture of Ferguson and how we were in good shape. And so we all took it. And I believe, I'm not up there, I'm not a professional, but I believe that they were able to pull one over on not all of you, because you all wasn't there, but the ones before you all, they were able to pull some wool over you all's eyes. And I believe even our city manager, our finance directors, whomever are in those positions, I believe it's because of lack of qualifications, because I believe we should hold these people accountable. They should be held accountable for missing these kind of things. You have finance directors, city managers, and if they had the qualifications, I believe they would have caught some of that. You bring me some paperwork, you bring me some figures, you should be able to vet those figures. So at this point, I'm asking the city council to, I know you said something about has to be passed by a certain date, but it looks like you all need some more time to look into some things. And that's all I'm asking is you all do your due diligence. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knight.
LeVern Mitchell.
Laverne Mitchum, 508 Hunters Ridge Drive. Finance, economics, accounting, that has never been my area. But I'll say like my grandmother used to say, there's such a thing as common sense. And to me, there's been some mismanagement somewhere. Now, I can't get up here and explain like the auditor and all of that, but common sense tells me there's been some mismanagement and some things done wrong. If you think about your own budget in your home, in your budget, how you have to make sure you're doing things right so the family don't end up in a mess. I think there's been mismanagement. I think there's been some personal agendas might be in this. And I'll say what I always say, it has not been done in the best interest of the people and the city.
Pat Washington.
Patricia Washington, 45 Hornywall Drive. I'm gonna try to read this fast. This is a budget discussion. This should be about the budget. It should not be about Pat Washington personally, as some have attempted to make it. It is about examining the value of this combined role, the impact of the work, and what happens if the role is eliminated or diluted. I am sad that some are attempting to pit the PIO against the police officers. It's a shame. This role supports police in ways that improve outcomes for those impacted by crime, and I elevate all of our officers. And I thank those officers who showed up for me tonight and who have showed up in my office all day and who have showed up for me since we've started having these discussions. I'm appreciative of them. I'm sad that some are trying to make this anything other than what it is. It's not an either or proposition, either the consent decree or the PIO role. This is about examining a function, the results achieved, the cost savings, and how eliminating or reducing this role will impact the police department and this city overall. When I was hired as the public information officer for the police department, it was made clear in the offer that this role would also support communication needs of other departments across the city, including the mayor's office, and I have done that. Not just PIO for the police department. I never solely was a FPD role. Later, I agreed to assume the consent decree responsibilities. That's two roles in one, managing compliance and executing programming for a third of what you were paying the previous consent decree coordinator. There's a huge savings to the city right there. I'm not punching two separate time clocks. These roles are interconnected. They are interwoven. The reason we can achieve the cost savings is because the PIO function and the consent decree function complement each other. It's like in construction, a design build model. You can hire a designer, a builder, and an architect, or you can combine them and achieve those cost savings. The public information officer function is not an option. This is the Ferguson Police Department. It is the city of Ferguson. We are still scrutinized across this country, and every time I look up, somebody wants to have Ferguson in their mouth. And it is my job to make sure when they do, it is positive and not negative. That's not optional. The consent decree role is not optional. And it's not easy. And if you think you can get somebody to step into those shoes and just, oh, we'll just farm it out and give it to somebody, try it.
That's all. That's all.
That's it, okay. This concludes the public hearing. We move to the consent agenda. We have regular council meeting minutes for May the 26th and the work session council meeting minutes for May 27th. I request a motion and a second to approve meeting minutes.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Minutes are approved. We move to the boards and commission meeting minutes. We have FSBD minutes for May the 6th. I request a motion and a second to receive and file boards and commission minute meetings.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The boards and commission meeting minutes are approved. We move to appointments. There are no boards and commission appointments this evening. We move to requests. I request a motion and a second. Yes, please.
I'm gonna get my microphone. Before we accept the motion and the second to approve the request for the liquor license renewals, I would like to ask, and I was just pulling up the number, It may be the last one, but I have to verify that. LL 26-4 for Sam's Market. I wanted to ask if we could have a roll call vote for that liquor license, Mayor.
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank
What
you.
about-
I don't have,
Only Sam's?
only Sam's. Was that number correct, City Manager? LL or,
26-4, yes, ma'am.
okay, thank you.
Are we ready to go now? Well, we're gonna go down through and we'll get to them. We have FSBD minutes for, sorry. We request a motion and a second to approve the liquor license for Circle K 1628.
So move, Naquita Noah.
Is there a second?
Second, Lamika Covington.
Did you get that? Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We request a motion and a second to approve the liquor license for Elicious Restaurant Group LLC.
So moved.
Second, Naquita Noah.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
You didn't make the vote.
Oh, sorry.
You gotta say all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Liquor license pass. LLC 2524. I request a motion and a second to approve the liquor license for Gala Rose.
So move, Naquita Noah.
You skip me, see.
Is there a second?
I second Lamika Covington.
I mean, it's consent agenda, so actually she's removed 26-4 from the consent agenda, and you can do the balance of the consent agenda with a single vote. Can't hear it. Huh?
What we're discussing?
Robert's rules is you can do the entire consent agenda. I mean, you actually don't even have to go through the individual points. You can take a single vote on the entire consent agenda.
Open session. It's an open session.
My microphone's on.
But we can't hear it.
I don't know what to tell you. My microphone's on. All I'm saying, and I'll say it to the microphone instead, under Robert's rules, you can vote on the entire consent agenda rather than each individual item. And in fact, that's actually the purpose of a consent agenda, that the body consents to everything on the consent agenda all at once, and it saves time for voting on every single one. So, being as the liquor license requests are on the consent agenda, with the exception of 26-4, which was removed by the consent agenda at the request of Councilor Noah, we can vote on the balance of them with a single vote. And then 26-4 will not be on the consent agenda, and we'll take a roll call on that at Councilor Noah's request. And I'm not the parliamentarian, so I will defer to a parliamentarian on that,
If
but
that's how you wanna go about it, we can. It would be easier if we just went through it line by line, just like she just asked to take one off. If someone wants to not say yes, I need to get a document that. So I have them all listed separately so that I can take notes. If you wanna move forward with doing it all together, that's fine by me. I would have to read through the Robert's rules to figure that out, that's all, so.
okay.
If you want me to look it up and we wait while I do that, we can do that.
I really don't care one way or the other personally, but I'm just telling you what Robert's rules says since, Counselor Williams brought it up.
Mayor, how would you like to proceed?
I want to proceed by just going through each one of them
Okay,
and we'll do that.
so right now we're on 25, 23.
We skipped 23.
We'll go,
Okay.
Yeah, we gotta go back.
I request a motion and a second to approve the liquor license for Keating Oil Corporation.
So moved.
Second, Aquita Noah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. I request a motion and a second to approve liquor license for Gala Rose.
You already did that.
Did we go all the way through it? We didn't get it.
Yeah, we did.
We go all the way through it? Okay. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
We did go.
But there's no,
Just say.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. I request a second and a motion for liquor license for Quick Trip Corporation.
So moved.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. I request a motion and a second to approve liquor license for Gas Mart 44.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, Aquita Noah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. I request a motion and a second to approve the liquor license for La Juicy Seafood.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. I request a motion and a second for liquor license for Mimi's Subway Bar and Grill.
So moved.
Second.
Any opposed?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it. I request a motion and a second to approve the liquor license for Hallelujah Entertainment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. I request a motion and a second to approve the liquor license for Phillips 66.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. I request a motion and a second to approve liquor license for Snooks Market.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. I request a motion and a second to approve the liquor license for Walmart stores.
So moved.
Number 1265.
Second.
Any opposed? All in favor? Sorry, all in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. I request a motion and a second to approve the liquor license for Sam's Club Store.
So moved.
Number 8125.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. I request a motion and a second to approve liquor license for Sam's Meat Market.
So moved. Second.
That's the one.
And I'd like to have discussion on that,
Yes.
please.
Yes, Councilman Castle.
So some members have expressed reservations about renewing the liquor license for Sam's Meat Market. I've heard concerns about it. However, I looked at the official city records. First of all, we got a list of police reports sent to us from the police chief through the city manager. And Sam's Meat Market had a handful of calls, but it wasn't anywhere near what I would say would constitute a problem property. I've also heard from some members and from some people in the public some concern about the appearance of Sam's Meat Market. Unfortunately, when I went to the city records, there are no outstanding code violations at Sam's Meat Market, and they haven't even been cited for a violation in the past 2 years. So, given the fact that I believe we need to go by the official record, I want to say that with reluctance, I feel obliged to vote in favor of renewing this liquor license. That doesn't mean Sam's Meat Market shouldn't be doing better, and it also doesn't mean that the city shouldn't be doing better in scrutinizing particular businesses that people have a problem with. But I can't tell somebody they can no longer do business in our city when there's no record of the city indicating that they've done anything warranting that I should make that decision. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Well, he had,
If
City
you don't
manager.
mind, Mayor and City Council, I've talked to a couple council members today in particular about Sam's Meat Market. And it's your purview, this is your decision. But if it's acceptable to the council, this liquor license does not expire to the end of the month. What I was suggesting earlier is that I can send code by as soon as tomorrow, evaluate the property, issue the citations, everything we need to do, and then give them a 7 to 14-day window to have those remedied. We can send them by for a recheck on the 23rd, which is the night of your next meeting. If it's been remedied, I can give you those results, and then you could vote on it that night. It still would be within the purview where it doesn't expire. But that's totally up to your direction. I'm just offering a solution to the group.
Well, I appreciate that, city manager. So I'm not going to support renewal of the liquor license, which does not prevent the business from doing business. You know, I mean, I'm one vote anyway, and it's the council's privilege to renew a liquor license. They're going to get the liquor license. I don't think the council is going to vote down the liquor license. I'm just one vote again, but they can still handle business without a liquor license. But the larger point is, we go through this every year with them. I mean, how hard is it to keep the grass mowed and trash from out the front of the property and the rear of the property? I mean, this is not hard. It's like, why are we begging businesses just to make the appearance decent? I talk to people every day and they're just like, how come they can't keep the grass mowed? I mean, talk to residents. How come the business cannot keep the grass mowed? I wonder that too. I mean, the grass is really tall. Here we are, almost near the end of June. We're just asking them to mow the grass and to make sure that there's not trash and large debris in the rear of the property. I mean, I can't support, that's all I can control. So I'm going to control what I can control, and I won't support the liquor license, even if you send code over there and we give them 14 days. I'm still not going to, but that's fine if you want to do that. And then also I have to question, how come code has not been over there already? I mean, you drive, everyone sees it. I mean, it sticks out like a sore thumb. It's like, we can't keep driving past and ignoring these issues and like we don't see it, and we wonder why sometimes things happen and the why behind it. We have to do better. Thank you.
City manager.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, this was brought up at the last meeting, so I did the liberty of running the numbers, actually yesterday. Code has written 1,409 violations since the beginning of this year, since January 1st. That's an average of 281 per month, 2 guys. So they're out there writing the tickets. The problem is it takes time to get these issued. Like, it has to go through the court system, like I've explained. It has to go through the hearings and everything else. And when it comes down to it, I've said this before, even if it goes through the court system, the most the city can do is issue a $200 fine. They don't have to fix it. $200 fine. I can't go paint somebody's house. I can't go fix their windows. I can't fix the gutters. It's a $200 fine. I mean, the code officers, the 2 guys are writing the citations. They've done more work this year than they've done the last 3 years that I can see, if I'm honest. So I just want to be clear on that. They are doing the work. It's just the court system and our ordinances don't allow us to do more, point blank.
But to be clear, they're doing the work, but they haven't done the work at Sam's Meat Market because they haven't been cited for anything in 2 years, according to OpenGov.
And you're
And
correct.
if their grass is too long, and I don't go by Sam's Meat Market because since Target went out of business, I don't usually drive that way. I used to go that way all the time, but if I'll say this, we have basically 3 high volume arterial roads with commercial businesses in Ferguson and a dozen 8 apartment complexes or whatever. It's not very many. These are places that are high impact. The apartment complexes, we have large numbers of people living there. We have serious crime problems. Some of these businesses are problematic, and others are just kind of a nuisance. But we have that liquor store up on Harvey, or at Harvey and Airport, and we've now got a boarded up house next door to that liquor store, and that's the direct result of probably a decade or more of that liquor store, with drunk people walking through the yard of that house, cutting from the neighborhood behind it to where there was a path worn through the yard, garbage strewn everywhere. And I remember back in the day, I had a group of older residents that used to clean up litter on Airport Road. We came to council meetings, we asked for something to be done, nothing ever happened, and they renewed the liquor license over and over again. And those people never really cleaned up their act. If they were threatened, they might clean it up for a week or two. These are places that really hurt the community. And I have to say, I felt sorry for the guy that we denied the convenience store down on Bermuda Road at our last meeting. But there's a reason why we denied it. And the reason why is our experience with these other businesses. And the reason that's happening is because we are maybe not focusing our energy on the low hanging fruit. Again, I'm sympathetic with Councilor Noah's position on Sam's Meat Market, but when push comes to shove, we know what happens. We deny the liquor license, they file a lawsuit. When they file a lawsuit, the only evidence we can bring into court is things that were documented by city inspectors. You can't say this business didn't maintain their property, everything looked trashy and was a nuisance, and yet there's no code violations for the last 2 years. No code violations in 2 years is a pretty responsible record if you're standing in front of a judge, I think. So, that's why I feel like, even though I recognize that Councilor Noah is surely much more aware of the condition of this business than I am, I don't see where we're really in any position to deny them a renewal at this point. I would suggest over the next year that we maybe go by there a little more often and maybe document things so that if this really is an ongoing problem, we've got a leg to stand on next year if we do deny them a liquor license. But that's where I'm at this point.
Councilman Franklin.
So me and Councilman Kassoff, we agree on this issue. We don't have any grounds to not renew this liquor license. So we all have personal opinions, but that's not our job here as legislators for the city of Ferguson. So if it is a problem, start reporting it, document it. And maybe the conversation is what we can do to help code enforcement in their job and their processes. Now, if I heard you correctly, you said that the fine comes once it goes to court, or is the fine before court?
When it goes to court.
Yeah, so that's something right there. You got to lead with the fine. Well, we had that discussion, but yeah, we gotta give you guys more legs, because it's difficult when there's a fine before court. Because in my experience, once it gets to court, it dies. So you kind of want to take care of it before court, but we need to tighten up those ordinances to give them more.
It depends on which way it's going through the
Okay.
system. Like if it's going for warrant through the actual court system and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
Councilman Gazo.
I'd like to ask the city attorney regarding the legality of the city assessing a fine against somebody without them having the opportunity to go to court. My understanding is we can't do that. I mean, if you get a speeding ticket or a parking ticket or whatever, you've always got a right to go to court.
City manager.
I just wanted to circle back too, and I agree with you, Councilman, Franklin and Councilman Cassoff. I do want to point out that, any citizen can use the report of concern function on the website. So if they see a problem with a specific business, residence, whatever, I realize that code needs to go by and I'm sending them. I just sent the text, like they will go by tomorrow. But if there are problems, there is a function on the website for report of concern. I've shown council how to do that, and I believe many citizens know how to do that. But the more eyes we get and the more complaints, then we have a paper trail for it. So does that makes sense?
Councilman Franklin.
And I'll answer the question because this is what I do professionally. So the answer to your question, Nick, is yes, but the city of Ferguson needs to have its own ordinances to support those fines. So if someone's in violation of our ordinance and there's a fine structure in the ordinance, you can fine those individuals. I'll give you an example. St. Louis County's Waste Code, Chapter 607-140. It's what requires all of us to have trash service at our residential properties. If you don't have trash service, you can be cited after X amount of days. And if you don't pay the fine, that's when it can be referred to St. Louis County Court. So that's the ordinance. But without that ordinance, we wouldn't be able to do it. So it sounds like Ferguson, we don't have the ordinance or a fine structure that allows us to penalize individuals that are in violation with our codes. But you can check Chapter 607 out with St. Louis County's Waste Code for all things waste, and you will see a fine structure, and it doubles as it occurs multiple times in a calendar year. And those fines are assessed before anybody goes to court. So that's what it is.
No.
I just want everyone to know, I appreciate your input. Again, I'm one vote, I'm one council rep. These are not personal feelings. This is what I see. I'm always on West Florissant. It's unfortunate that, and this is nothing against code enforcement. I understand we have 2 code officers, but again, this has been ongoing for years. I have been reporting this concern. You can go back and watch the videos. You can look at the emails. I do utilize the report of concern too. I encourage residents to. Many residents are afraid to. They tell me, that's why I'm telling you, that's why I elected you. So again, I won't support it. I'm one vote and that's okay, but I appreciate everyone's input.
I would like to speak on the matter. It's no excuse for not maintaining your property. You're a business owner. You come in that driveway every day. You see your grass growing. You neglect to take care of turf maintenance. It's a small area, but when you get weeds up 3 foot high, growing and the overgrowth along the backside of the building, I just don't want to not give him liquor license. I would like just to put them on hold until the next meeting so he can maintain, so he can cut the grass. Because if we don't do it some way, he's not going to do it. Spring has been, summer's coming, and to have that type of overgrowth in the front of these properties, I don't feel it's right. And it's a privilege to have liquor license in the city of Ferguson. So sometimes I think you need to upkeep your property, because if it was a citizen, we would be getting tagged. If we would have had code enforcement back like we used to have, we had a lot more, they would have tagged him a long time ago. But right now, I think we need to put a hold on this liquor license till the next meeting. I think that's very admirable for us to give a business owner that knows you got to cut your grass and pull your weeds. If he don't do no more and put weed killer down, get some Roundup, put it down. But I just feel we need to put liquor license on hold to is it the 23rd meeting of this month, and have code go out, talk to him, and make sure he gets the job done. And then we give him this liquor license. I'm not for just saying, no, you can't have it. But building maintenance to me, is critical. Councilman Williams.
I definitely understand what you're saying, but I think that's your personal opinion. What you have to realize, they have no code violations for 2 years. And in the past, when we've denied liquor license, they do lawyer up and sue us. And some of the budget, when you heard the auditor going over that, some of the money, I think it was $2+ million, money paid out for lawsuits. I think we should have code go by there and talk to them. But even if they don't do it, it's just a $200 fine. I think to spare the city a senseless lawsuit, I think we should grant the liquor license. There's no need to wait. But I do think we need to have conversations with them to straighten up the storefront. And then maybe we can put pressure next year, but we need documentation. So when you go to court, it's not whether you're innocent or guilty, it's what you can prove. And our records don't really prove that. And so we definitely would lose in court. And I think that's taxpayers' money wasted. So I think we should grant it, but like the city manager said, someone is going to go by there and have a talk with them. Cause you don't, that type of business brings down the neighborhood, and you want the appearance to look good. So people's property values, and a lot of times if it's a neglected property, crime and other stuff comes with that. So I definitely understand where you're coming from, but from a legality perspective, I don't think we have a leg to stand on. So waiting is irrelevant. I think we should just go ahead and vote, but code should sit down with them and have a conversation.
Councilwoman Covington?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about my voice. I have strep. But I want to say that when we keep saying code, go over there and tell them to cut their grass, it's more than just their grass. We are getting complaints from people that live over there, from people from Ward 3. And I don't want code to just go and tell them to cut their grass and then we like, oh, okay. It's more going on with that building than just them needing to cut their grass.
Can you elaborate on things that you heard that is wrong with the property?
The
or
outside
business?
front of the building, the people hanging out in front of it, just the appearance of the building itself.
Thank you. Councilman Castle.
I'm a little bit puzzled because I've got two counselors telling me there's a lot of complaints. And yet again, I go to OpenGov and there's nothing there. Now, as council members, we have two ways of dealing with a complaint that a resident brings to, well, three really. One of them is you can always direct the resident to put it into OpenGov. A lot of people don't want their name attached to a complaint for various reasons. So we're able to put a complaint into OpenGov under our name, or we can give that complaint to the city manager and it's put in by the city and it doesn't have anybody's name on it. So if we've had complaints at this place ongoing, I think we need to know where the breakdown is here in terms of me going to OpenGov and these people have a clean record for 2 years. There should, if there was 10 OpenGov complaints on the books over the last year, I would be a hard no on renewing that liquor license because it shows an ongoing pattern of neglect. But the honest truth is, if we go over there after tabling his liquor license, write up a bunch of violations, tell him he's got 2 weeks, he doesn't get it all done, and we vote him down 2 weeks from now, we're still getting sued. You can't just pile on at liquor license renewal time when a guy's had a clean record for 2 years, according to the city's official record. I'm not any more in favor of this business than Counselor Noah is, but we have to document the problems. And I don't have, like I said, we requested police reports from the chief. He sent us over all the reports on that business. And there was a handful of them, but it really wasn't the sort of, constant drug dealing and people getting in fights and shooting all the time. That wasn't in the police record. And when I go to the record of code enforcement, there's nothing. So I just don't see, again, where we had, even if they write up 100 things tomorrow morning, I still don't see where we can't, where we are in a position to not renew that license.
I want to say something. The aesthetics of our city means a lot to me. It's not personal. It really isn't. But I'm willing to work with the council, pass his license, and put him on hold until we see some improvements in his property. I'm willing to do that. It's one thing to deny his license, but the aesthetics of that area, that is a historical area on what has happened in the past years. We don't have any businesses over there hardly, very few. I look at what the Elite Market did, the Elite Liquor Store up the street. They actually, they put the lights, they painted up, they fixed up, they awnings, and they did everything. So I'm saying that, yeah, if the building has problems, let's address it. But I feel right now, I will work with council to okay their liquor license, but have them on hold till you get response from code saying, okay, they did some improvements. Sometimes you got to have a little leverage. And I would like to refer to our attorney on that. Is that possible? Is that legal that we can pass and then put the license on hold until he makes some improvements to the property?
So I understand your question correctly. You're wondering if you can grant the liquor license now, subject to conditions.
Yes.
I don't recall a provision in the ordinances that allows for provisions to attach to a liquor license. I think, potentially the council could choose to pass this matter if it has concerns that it wants to address, but I'm not familiar with any provision regarding the form.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilwoman Noah.
Just lastly, I'll say it again. I'm one vote on this council. If you all want to approve the liquor license, that's fine. I'm one vote. I'm not going to support it. That's why I asked for a roll call vote. And in the last council meeting, I asked, does the business have to pass an exterior inspection? And I was told yes. So I don't understand how the business passed an exterior inspection, but it's okay. That's the end. Mayor, I appreciate that, what you stated, but thank you all.
Any, Councilman Franklin.
We have a motion and a second, and I'm just ready to vote at this point if we can move. We got other important things tonight. David motioned, I seconded. So roll call vote is good. I just want to move forward because we got important things.
All in favor?
No, roll call.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Franklin,
Aye.
Williams was the motion.
Councilman Williams,
Aye.
Councilman Franklin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah. No. Councilwoman Covington,
Nay.
Councilman Cassoff,
Aye.
Mayor Shropshire.
Aye. Ayes have it. The liquor license are approved. We have, yeah, we do that. Okay. I request a motion and a second to approve the liquor license for Elite Market and Grill.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. That concludes our liquor license approvals for this evening. We move to, we have no proclamations tonight. We move to resolution 2026-23 without objection to be introduced by Councilman Kazoff, Councilman Palmer, and Councilman Williams. If there were no objections, Attorney Ryan, could you please read the resolution?
Thank you, Mayor. A resolution of the City of Ferguson, Missouri, approving and adopting a budget for the 2026-2027 fiscal year.
City Manager, could you please explain the resolution, please?
This is unorthodox, but I've got a presentation about this one. So, Lavetta, if you could bring that up. I've been very clear since we started this budget process with council about kind of how we got here, what happened, about overestimating revenues, overspending, all those things. So I wanted to get things off the website and show you really what happened, because these are straight off the website, straight out of the budgets, and that's kind of what's going on. So this year, 27 general fund budgets. This is a review of historical revenues, usage, and the path to long-term fiscal stability. This is my presentation. Do I have a clicker? Look at that. So fiscal year 2020, this was right around COVID. We actually budgeted this year for an 8,000 surplus in the budgets. 2021, council approved a budget that was going to dip into the reserves, $524,000 in general fund revenues. 22, council forecasted 7,000 in the red for 22's general fund. 23, $1.5 million into the red for the fiscal year. 24, $4 million into the red for the general fund for the budgets. How reserves were utilized. Over the past 6 fiscal years, city has relied on general fund reserves to have a balanced adopted budget. While reserves are intended to provide financial stability and address unforeseen events, reoccurring use for ongoing operations is not sustainable over a long time. So I said from the beginning, the bottom line is in our current budget, we outlined $833,000 in reserves. If we keep dipping into reserves the next 18 months, we're not going to be a place where we can be sustained. That's why we cannot budget into the red this year. Impact of budget amendments. In addition to adopting budget deficits, so already budgeting into the red, council has adopted many budget amendments over the last several years. These are vehicles, snow plows, additional staffing, equipment, other operational needs for reduced availability in general fund reserves, where the expenditures exceed ongoing revenues. So we already budgeted in the red. We need to do a budget amendment. We need this, this, and this. That's taking us further into the red. That's where we got. Why action is needed now? The recurring operating deficits and subsequent budget amendments have significantly reduced the city's reserve position. The reserves are almost exhausted, as I alluded to a minute ago. Will limit the city's ability to respond to emergencies, economic downturns, or unforeseen capital needs moving forward. Literally, if we had to buy a snowplow or additional vehicles or whatever in this next fiscal year in a budget amendment, we would not have the cash for it. That's point blank. Turning point, fiscal year 27 budget presented tonight is structurally balanced based on current projections staff is forecasting. General fund is finished approximately 4,000 positive. I'd love to do more, but I understand these cuts hurt, and that's what we can afford to do right now. I would love to put $1 million back in reserve this year. There's no fiscal way possible we can do that. We've seen this. We've already cut almost $2.2 million out of this budget from last year. It's ridiculous. Most special revenue funds have finished positive. All debt service will be paid. And the capital improvement fund is going to return to a positive balance at the end of the fiscal year. I mentioned this in the previous budget meetings. Currently, capital is in the red. There is no reserves in capital. That's why we had to cut capital completely down this year. The only thing left in capital is what we have contracts on, leases, that kind of stuff. Anything else was removed just to get it into the black, because when you're in the red in capital, you're spending the reserve dollars that are in general, and you're going to get to a bad point at that point. So that's why we had to cut it like we did. That's why I brought you what I brought you last time. 27 balanced budget strategy is discipline, not denial. We're monthly monitoring moving forward. Conservative spending, immediate corrections when needed. I've alluded to this in our budget meetings. We're going to redo the purchasing policy. We're going to have reports coming to you guys quarterly about these budgets. We're stepping up to the plate from a staff standpoint. We're trying to get you everything we can. But the bottom line is we have to have a balanced budget moving forward. It's not pretty. We understand that. Nobody wants to make these cuts. We understand that, but this is where we're at. Moving forward, our objective is straightforward: preserve remaining reserves that we have, restore long-term financial sustainability while maintaining essential services to Ferguson residents, and protect Ferguson's future through responsible budgeting. Challenges before us were not created overnight. They've been very clear about that, and they will not be solved overnight. This is not a quick solution, but they can be solved. My commitment right now, I'm providing high-quality service with our limited resources we have as much as we can. This means many people are picking up double duty, doing more than they have in the past, trying to figure it out, protect our reserves and restore long-term financial sustainability, and to build a stronger Ferguson, grounded in accountability, guided by stewardship, and focused on results. I've been very clear. I, as a person, do not want to make any of these cuts. I would love to put the blinders on like previous administration has and say, we're great. We're not. I brought you the numbers when I saw them. I've tried to be as accountable as I can at this point in my 2 months doing this. I've been straightforward in telling you what we need to do. We still need to figure this out. I understand tonight's budget is controversial. I understand this budget is controversial. I'm not expecting it to pass. I'm gonna be blunt with you. I don't. We're gonna have to have another budget work session, whether that's Thursday this week, next Tuesday, whatever. I'm fine with that. I've said many times, if you have ideas, call me, email me, tell me where to make the cuts. I've cut every single line in the general fund as low as I can. I've gotten rid of assistant city manager, I've gotten rid of code enforcement, I've got rid of assistant finance director. We've gotten rid of all kinds of positions across the board to try to make this happen. Most of the departments you're looking at right now are currently one-man shows. HR, one guy. IT, one guy. Code is down to 2. Nuisance abatement is minimal. People keep talking about nuisance abatement. That's an option. Yes, we can look at cutting it. But the bottom line is when we outsourced it before, we were spending $1.1 million to a third-party contractor. We have it in-house now with 3 guys. So you're looking at $135K plus $40,000 in supplies. For what we're getting out of it and how much work they're doing, that's very reasonable in what's going on with the cost there. There's lots of things in the city. I get that. But we need to cut more. If it's not balanced unless we do what we have to do. So that's where we're at. Like I said, I fully understand it's probably not going to pass tonight. I'm okay with that, but that's where we are.
Councilman Cassoff.
Okay, so I've got a few quick questions. You said that the budget as submitted is $4,000 positive. If I understand correctly, it's $4,000 positive, but eliminating a police captain, the PIO consent decree coordinator, which is apparently not going to happen, 2 other civilian police department positions, and not making a $550,000 pension contribution, which we can probably get away with for 1 year, but next year we're going to have to make that payment and the problem's going to be even worse. So I hear a lot of people say, keep the PIO consent decree coordinator. That's fine. But we need to then find $128,000 somewhere else in this budget to cut. And I've asked my colleagues for suggestions on that, and the only other suggestion they have is cut another captain. Chief Doyle came in here at our last meeting and said that we had critical manpower shortages for our uniformed officers. If he would like to amend that and say that cutting another captain is acceptable, I'll be happy to shift gears and do that. But I'm just going on what was said. So yes, I yield to the city manager.
So just to answer the question, big picture, I cut $300,000 out of the police salary budget. I identified the position, but that's what it needs to be balanced to your tune of $7,000. Chief Doyle did give $112,000. So you're really looking for right around $186,000. That's what you're looking for right now.
Which is 2 patrol officers.
It's actually more than that.
Or 2 white shirts. And again, I don't know the manpower needs of the police department. The police chief does, which is why you delegated the specific cuts to the chief. If it's literally impossible to cut $300,000 from the police department, then something else has to be cut. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to completely eliminate code enforcement. You know, community center and the pool or parks budget, so it would do nothing to eliminate them. I don't know where else the money would come from, but you know, there's a bunch of other people here, so hopefully somebody's got an idea.
Can I just say one thing? I'm not trying to step on toes here at all, but I
Yeah,
know
sure.
in an interest of time.
City manager?
I'm gonna be honest, like, these are all discussions we can have during a special budget meeting and talk about what we're cutting, what we're doing, open to the public, just like this. But we still got some agenda items to go through. It's 9:30. Like, the group census, if you're not happy with this budget, I would prefer just voting it down. Let's go back to the drawing board and start hashing this out. But again, I'm here at your leisure, so.
Councilman Williams.
I'll make it really quick. Tired of repeating myself, but a lot of people weren't here during the budget. So the easiest fix was to take the honor deal, but everybody was like, no data centers. But we were not voting for a data center. We were voting for a tax abatement. Even though that property is zoned industrially and they have a data center there, they would have to come to planning and zoning. We can make it as green as possible. So that would have solved all of our problems, but people thought that that was a scare tactic. As you're seeing, it's not a scare tactic. The second option, which I've been talking to my colleagues till my face is blue, is cut the consent agenda. So the DOJ has said they're not interested. So if someone robs something from you or assaults you and the police comes to you and they say, do you want to press charges? You say no. Usually they don't pick it up unless it's an egregious crime and it affects the community. They're not interested anymore. So July 11th, we're pretty much done, 90% done. So we've allocated $300,000 to the consent agenda. I've asked my colleagues to only budget for 2 months. They said, well, what if we're not out of it? I said, okay, let's budget for 4 months. So we'll give $100,000 to the consent agenda. Then we have $200,000. That means nobody loses their job. But the reason why they don't want to defund the consent agenda, because we'll be in the paper, the NAACP will be down our throat. But this is a cut we can easily make to save people's jobs. Easy. But nobody's willing to do that because it's not popular. So, and I agree, the police information officer or POI, whatever, has gotten us to this point. So it is kind of a slap in the face to get rid of her when she got us to this point. But if we only budget $100,000 to the consent agenda and we're out of it in less than 30 days, we can save everybody's job. We don't have to cut. So you didn't want Project Butterfly, which would say, we wouldn't even be here if we passed that. Okay, that's done. I get that. But let's only budget $100,000 to the consent agenda. But people are like, the judge, we don't want to piss off the judge. I don't want to cuss on the mic, but I got some words for that. We need to worry about in-house. When you're in an airplane, they say put on your oxygen mask before you help somebody else. We need to help ourselves. So there is a way that we can save people's jobs. It's just not popular. So for this budget, I'm going to abstain because there are ways that we can find money. We cut $500,000 from capital. We're not paying the $500,000 pension, but it's $200,000 low-hanging fruit that can save people's jobs. But people are unwilling to do it because it's unpopular. Thank you.
Councilman Franklin.
So a couple of things. I'll start with my first question, and it's kind of for some of the older members of council. I believe 4 of you were on council in 2024, and we saw the slide that showed that we had almost a $4 million deficit. My question to Kassoff, Williams, Palmer, who's not here, and Ms. Noah, were you all aware that there was a $4 million deficit in 2024 with that budget?
No.
Of course not.
Okay, that's all I need. I don't need an explanation. I just wanted to get some clarity because we saw what we just saw. And we know that based off of the audit, we've been doing a lot of spending, investing in our capital. So either you, a yes or a no is all I need.
Well, I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember. However,
Let him finish.
well, he asked me, he asked.
Well, I
me-
just asked for a yes or no. If you knew we had that deficit, okay. If you didn't know, I think it's important that the public knows what its council was doing or what we were aware of when it happened.
Well, we had a large general fund balance supposedly and I think the story then was maybe we had ARPA funds that had to be spent by a certain date or something. I mean, it was 2 years ago, so I don't remember the
But
details.
you weren't aware of a $4 million deficit, correct?
I
All right,
think they,
never mind. I'll go to my second point.
City manager.
I just want to clear language. It wasn't a deficit because the general fund balance was there. They were deficit spending by dipping into the reserves, but there wasn't per se the deficit that we're facing today because where there was no reserve.
Okay. So I'll go into my second point. There's been a lot of talk about this budget that probably will not pass. And I've been pretty direct with you and my council members of what I'm not willing to support. And so I want to say it out loud because there's a member on council that likes to speak on my behalf. And a lot of times that individual misrepresents my position. So I want to be clear to the public, to the police department, everybody at home listening. I will not support any budget that eliminates our public information officer and also our consent decree coordinator. I think it's a flawed strategy. We're in the middle of a consent decree. We've made a lot of great strides under our current information officer. It would be sabotage, self-sabotage to eliminate that and expect somebody to pick up the slack. Anybody that's worked professionally know good workers, they're hard to replace. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just filling the pieces. So I just want to be clear. I will not support any budget that eliminates that position in our city. And there's no compromise for me. I've offered solutions about what we can do. I will send additional. I got about 5 ideas how we can balance this budget. Is it gonna be pretty? No, but I can't support that. And here's my rationale, because some people think it's about friendship and personal and all that. Let's be real. Look across the country. Look across our country. Show me another city of our size that doesn't have a full-time information officer. Show me one that has gotten their consent decree reach compliance that didn't have one in the last 2 years. So why are we gonna set a new precedent and expect to have the same results that we've seen across the nation? That's a valuable position at our city, and we can't cut it out the budget. Now, I understand that I'm in the minority vote, and the only reason why we're having discussion is because the majority vote doesn't have the votes. But you might have to come my way on this. So I will send 5 options to the council and to our city manager about how we can balance this budget and move forward and get it passed before the deadline. So pick one that you like, Nick, and let's get this thing done.
I asked
So-
you for these 2 days ago.
Well, I gave you the first one. You didn't like it. So I just want us to move forward, but I just wanted to be clear to the community where I stand. You know, I don't mind being the bad guy and I'll make those cuts. I've been in a position where staff had to be laid off. And what happened in my position was one of our elders manned up. He retired and allowed us to keep our jobs. He didn't have to, but he did it because he was good. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to be like that, but that's one of the things we considered. That's one of the things that happened, and it allowed a lot of us to continue our careers at the county at the time. And then also, you know, I'm big on accountability. You know, Hampton's no longer our city manager. He's a great fire chief. In my opinion, he's dropped the ball as a city manager. Everybody's afraid to say it, but that's what I'm seeing with this budget and where we are. We've mismanaged, we've overspent, and there's no real accountability, you know, and you've had to inherit it, and now you stepped into the shoes, and now you got to wear the crown and make these tough decisions. But I just wanted to be clear to everyone involved of where I stand and how I will vote, and hopefully we can get this thing resolved by the end of the week after I send these options to my colleagues, and hopefully we can agree. Thank you.
Councilwoman.
I won't be long. I do think we should have another work session so that we can put everything out on the table, even if Councilman Franklin sends his email. The ball was dropped by the previous city manager, you know, and we have to be transparent about that. And I'm not afraid to say it, just like I'm not afraid to go through the staffing numbers that were presented, and we're going to have to make some deeper cuts to other departments. other departments that we have not talked about, unfortunately. I don't support cutting the PIO consent decree position. Pat Washington has done a lot. I have been on this council since 2021. I also accept accountability, because I voted to approve the budget based upon what was presented. Clearly, the numbers were inflated, as you stated, the revenues. Now, 2025, 24, well, 21, I think you stated 20 through 2025. So we all have to accept accountability, but we believe in our city manager. We believe in our finance director. We believe in what's been presented to us. Last year, we had 3 new hires. Now, I'm not against those new hires. I believe we need their service. They have brought a lot to this city. But when you talk about cutting staff, I've always been taught that you don't start with people who are already invested. You start with the new hires. I'm not saying that's what we should do, but what I am saying is, can we look at the staffing numbers a little bit deeper? I mean, we're going to have to look at other departments, and in the work session, I will ask more questions, because I don't want to cut code enforcement. I don't want to cut street maintenance, but we may have to look at some of those departments, especially, and this is no offense to anyone, again, it's not personal, but when I look around, the community, just like the conversation we were having about Sam's Meat Market, we have to be able to justify having staff in these positions. And the way to do that is by showing your work. So again, I do support the work session, and we are going to have to make some more cuts, and it's not going to be pretty, but we have to do what we have to do. So that's it.
Yes, city manager. I would just ask that you've identified evidently some things you wouldn't mind emailing me, just so I know what you're looking at, so I can have quantitative numbers for you.
No, I mean, I really don't want to email, because if we're going to have a work session on Thursday, tomorrow's Wednesday, I would rather just have it all out there, and then, allow you to,
I'm speaking to salary dollars.
right. So I'm not.
Have everyone's salary memorized.
And I don't either. I'm looking at the staff and numbers, and I'm looking at, like, for instance, you all, human resources. We're currently staffed for a human resources manager and a human resources part-time assistant. I don't know exactly off the top of my head.
You are having for one person in HR, and your current clerk gets a stipend for helping, I don't know
Okay.
the number, but that's why I'm asking for the things you're looking at, so I can provide you the proper numbers.
Okay, well, that's fine. I'll make it easy. I'm not trying to make it harder on you. I just know we're gonna have to dig deeper if we're not gonna cut the PIO consent decree
I agree.
position. So I would rather say that out in the open, so people know how I feel. So, not so much how I feel, but where I am at. So it's not a secret. I don't mind being transparent.
I have a 25-page document that has every staff member listed in it, what they get for their position, any stipends for additional work, those kind of things. And all I'm saying is, I don't have that memorized. So if you can provide things you're looking at, I could then be prepared with those dollar amounts so that we can look at them.
That's no problem.
Councilman Williams.
Last comment, I don't know if Chief Hampton is here, but I do want to kind of defend him a little bit. So you got to realize he did dual roles. I don't think he ever slept. He and Ella Jones are one of the reasons Chief Doyle is sitting right there. He also trained the current city manager. So, he didn't go to school for finance or to be a city manager, but I think he did a hell of a job to get us out of a bind, because we couldn't keep good staffing. So I'm not saying everything he did was perfect, but I think he got us on a good standing, and to kind of desecrate his name is not that great, I think he got us to where we are now. And so I think we should show him a little bit more respect. That's it.
I'd like to speak for a minute, and I'll make it quick. I look out upon our citizens right now sitting here and law enforcement. I see tremendous concern on the direction that our city's going. I was looking at the citizens and law enforcement. When the auditor was reading the numbers, I inherited this. It was dropped in my lap. And I've worked with Miss Pat ever since she's been here. Nobody sees what goes on in those training meetings that we sit in. Nobody really knows what the DOJ, the monitor, and the attorneys expect out of the IPO and Miss Lisa Stevens. They are the two people right now that are pushing us forward to the finish line. If we do not keep Miss Pat and keep her feeding information to the judge, we're going to have a problem. The time she puts in, nobody knows about. We get reports from her. She's out this past weekend. She was out on the homicide we had. I'm not saying somebody can't be trained in time, but we don't have time. I feel we need to come to a conclusion with this consent decree, get it going. The judge is talking about working with us. I asked the city manager, the chief, and whoever sits in on the meetings Thursday with the judge to ask her to reconsider some of the expenses that we're paying out in our city. She doesn't want to see our city fail. But if we have open dialogue with her, I've talked to Judge Perry numerous times. I've spoke to her different at our monthly or quarterly meetings when we can speak. She's a reasonable person. She wants our police department to grow, and she wants our city to grow with the police department and the fire department. Everybody's together in this. So I'm asking, when we sit down Thursday with the judge, ask her, could she restructure some of the money that we're paying to get us through this budget cycle? I'm not saying it'll happen, but that's an ask, not a demand. I'm done. I don't want to say anything else. It's getting late. And one more question, Councilman Williamson. We got to go to a.
Well, just a correction. It's not for the judge. It's not what she can reduce it to. So that budget, we budget for $300,000 for the entire year for her. So next month we should be out of that consent agenda. So why are we going to budget $300,000 for something that's going to end next month? So what I'm asking the council to do, let's budget for 4 months, $100,000. That means that $200,000 that we would budget can go to save folks' jobs. Point blank, that's a low-hanging fruit. Honestly, I just want to fund it for 2 months, but we have money there that we can easily grab. So we're budgeting $300,000 for 12 months when more than likely it's going to be over next month. So we're over budgeting for the consent agenda because people are scared of the optics, but we can save folks' jobs. not just Pat Washington's jobs, but firemen and police. So if people so adamant about fire and police jobs, we have a low hanging fruit. So I'm not saying defund it completely. Let's fund it for a couple of months. So when the judge sees like it's not defunded completely, we can save folks jobs. We don't have to have a damn work session where we're cutting parts and all kinds of crap. We got a low hanging fruit, but nobody's damn listening to me. And it's like, I'm tired of talking about it.
Councilman Campbell.
I'm gonna make a motion to table the budget resolution.
Second.
I would rather you fail it because the budget resolution currently includes the budget and I would have to amend it, and then you have to pass it as amended. If you just fail this one, then we'll go back to the drawing boards and then I'll have a new budget document attached to the new resolution. Paperwork wise.
I mean, we can just remove it from the table.
Just recall it, man. We can do.
We
I'm
can
just
just,
saying, like, I'm not gonna amend that.
okay, if nobody makes a motion to consider it, it dies.
Correct.
So you can just ask for a motion and nobody can make one.
Is there a motion?
Well, hold on, time out.
And
Kassoff made a motion, I seconded, so do you want to rescind your?
I
motion?
rescind my motion and I do want to make one quick comment. Cutting the consent decree from $300,000 to $100,000 would save $200,000. That doesn't pay the salaries of all the people. We're cutting $600,000 in salaries, and you're talking about $200,000 in cuts. So that only gets us a third of the way there. I mean, you're not wrong that it's low hanging fruit potentially, but it wouldn't make the difference. Anyway, I rescind my motion and,
Councilman Kazoff noted that he's rescinded his motion. I request a motion and a second for approval.
If he rescinded his motion, you don't need to say that.
no, this is
the-
for approving the budget resolution, and just don't make a motion, okay?
Do I hear any motions? The resolution dies on the floor.
Ready to adjourn?
Nope, we gotta go down here.
We got more stuff?
Now we move to bills requiring first readings. Without objection to the introduced by Councilman Kazoff and Councilman Palmer and Councilman Williams, Attorney Ryan to read the bill by title only, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance repealing ordinance number 2025 to be determined and adopting an ordinance fixing the salaries and other compensation of all officers and employees of the city as provided in section 2-47. Compensation of chapter 2, administration of the code of the city of Ferguson for the fiscal year 2026 through 2027.
City manager, can we have an additional information?
Yeah, so this is the ordinance for full-time staff, if I remember correctly. Basically, every year you pass a pay ordinance. It updates minimum wage fees, personnel numbers, all those things. This is something we do every year and just move it through the process. It has nothing to do with funding, that kind of stuff. It's just outlining the actual pay ordinance for the city of Ferguson.
And we are on a pay freeze, correct?
Currently, we're under a hiring freeze.
Okay, so the pay is being increased.
Correct. Well, as we can talk in budget sessions, but the CBAs and everything else, like that's all intact. That's all I got.
That's it? We move on to bills requiring second reading. There are no bills requiring second reading.
Oh,
Oh,
so-
First read.
There's another one. Yeah, 7346 you haven't done yet.
Oh, Bill 7346 without objection. Would you read the bill too, please,
Thank you, Mayor.
Attorney Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance repealing ordinance number 2025 CBD and adopting an ordinance fixing the salaries of part-time employees of the Parks and Recreation Department of the city of Ferguson for the fiscal year 2026 through 2027.
City manager, you have any explanation for this?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, like I mentioned earlier, this is the same thing, but this one dictates all part-time staff, primarily focusing on the Parks Department, lifeguards, all those lovely positions, but this is something we do every year, mainly to adjust for minimum wage increases and kind of what the pay structure looks like.
Thank you, City Manager. Bills requiring second reading. There are no bills requiring second reading. Do we have any unfinished business? Councilwoman Noah? Nothing? New business?
Okay, the first new business is, can we have a trash can placed on Canfield Drive? Is that possible?
It's a county road, so not.
On
without the
Canfield?
authorization. Oh, on Canfield Drive, we could,
Yeah.
yes. I thought you were saying West Florissant. and
No,
Canfield, I'm sorry.
no, not West Florissant, I know.
So, I'm sorry to overstep.
Go ahead.
I would have to check as far as, boundary lines, easements, those type of things. Memory serves, it's mostly private property down that drive. And so I don't know that we can put a trash can there because it's somebody else's property, but I can look into it and get you an answer.
Okay, what would you, cause
Like
A
when you look
resi-
around town, like we have trash cans in commercial districts typically, parks, that kind of stuff. We don't have trash cans in residential neighborhoods because of property boundaries.
and that's fine, if you just would check. So I just want, again, just to be transparent with everyone. I do encourage residents, come to the council meeting, like the young lady spoke tonight. And this is why, this is about the trash can. People just are afraid to. They say, well, Councilwoman Noor, when I come to the council meeting, I gotta say my name, I gotta say my address. You know, what if people, want to come back and retaliate? I get it, So I'm asking for the trash can on Canfield for the residents who live in that area, because we do go over there once a month and pick up trash. I help the residents. The residents have also asked, does city staff ever come over here and pick up trash? If so, is it being documented? This is not to target city staff in any type of way, but these are real concerns that residents have. My next piece of of new business is the Juneteenth parade, Dalewood sponsors, starts in Ferguson, I believe, right there in Ward 3 at the Boys and Girls Club. The ask, can we work with St. Louis County to make sure that the easements are clean? To make sure that, can we as a city clean Canfield the day before, make sure that that street is clean? I just want the city to represent at its best. Can we ask the business owners to make, can there not be trash on their easements or in front of their business? It's just an ask, it may seem simple to some, but there is a parade starting in Ferguson, and there's going to be a lot of people, and it's in Ward 3 Ferguson, and it's one of the council reps for Ward 3. I just want to represent at best. I understand that people drive down West Florissant and Canfield and throw out trash, but yes, I do empathize with the residents who live in that area who are not doing it. And as a council rep, they expect from me to bring some type of resolve and work with the city government to help. That's what we're here for. So that's my ask to you, city manager.
Yeah, West Florissant is a county road, county maintained. Having said that, I would assume that Delwood has got with county about the day of the parade, time and all that, and encourage them to clean it up. But I can definitely coordinate with Delwood and county and see what's going on as far as date, time, and see what we could do to assist. I can't make a promise because like I said, it's a county road. but-
And you can't, but I'm just talking about for Ferguson's portion, not Dalewood's portion. But the county has been really responsive whenever I have reached out to the county. And so, I can email you the contacts email that I reached out to several times. She always responds. But thank you, Mayor. That's my new business.
I just want to address the press that we got today on, I think it was Channel 5
Fox 2.
or 4, about our parks restrooms. We talked to the gentleman last meeting and let him know he had to fill out a special event form. He hasn't done that as of noon today. I talked to him today to let him know that, we really didn't need to have the press brought out. He said, well, it was my parents. And I quizzed him on, was he making money? Was he charging the kid to teach them tennis? And he flat out said, no, I'm not.
Microphone.
Sorry. And I talked to the gentleman about the restrooms today. He said he's going to fill out the report by the end of the day. Councilman Williams still holds to his in-kind donation to the tennis team. To me, the press was uncalled for because merely he didn't do the job that he was supposed to be doing. We gave him instructions last meeting and he didn't fulfill his side of the bargain. So I hope this gets taken care of. I will do my due diligence to call him again tomorrow to make sure that he has filled out the forms online. He went to the recreation department today and they gave him the link and how to type it in and how to access an application. He said he would. So I just wanted to let the citizens know that he dropped the ball himself. It wasn't us. We gave him directions on how to fulfill so we could get the porta potties for the kids. Juneteenth this weekend. I hope everybody can come out, enjoy themselves. It's a good venue. Oh, new business. Okay, well, the new business that I said was on the tennis. Thank you. Now we move to miscellaneous. You got something? Yes.
I want to say, let me pull up my email. I want to give a huge thank you to FYI, Ferguson Youth Initiative, for collaborating with the Ferguson Police Department, the Ferguson Creative Spot, Gamers Island, the people who facilitated our youth schools out event on Friday, June 5th, and on Saturday, June 6th. We had a great turnout. We really did have a good time. I had a good time with the youth. Aaron Harris, Jessica Johnson, Kalonda Kay, Patricia Washington, Tashana Parker, and all the people who attended, all of the youth. There was financial literacy, arts and gaming, and our youth are important. We will maintain a focus on them. I have asked Director Aaron Harris if he can make a point to do a little bit more outreach to the apartment complexes. I know that it's hard. I'm not trying to give him more work to do, but just so we can go into the apartments, and do what we can to outreach to the youth. Next. Wednesday, June 24th, we're going to have the Nesbitt Newton meeting in Nesbitt Newton Park. And City Manager, I have a question for you. When can residents expect the nuisance and abatement staff to begin mowing the reported nuisance properties? Have they started mowing already?
Yeah, we
Okay.
already started mowing them. It's a split right now between nuisance abatement and public works when it comes to city-owned lots, so there's a whole list, but they've already started mowing.
Okay. All right. So, and I appreciate that. And I just want to say this, and I won't be long. This Councilman Franklin asks, because I have been on this council since 2021, and I have approved those budgets. And this is not, we all have to accept accountability. I have to accept accountability for approving the budgets based upon what was presented. This is not to hate on John Hampton. John Hampton stepped up for the city. He did when the city needed him. And I won't take that away from him. I'm going to give credit where credit is due, but we also have to be realistic. Those numbers, the budget numbers were inflated, and he was the city manager at the time. So we all have to accept accountability. New people to the council, seasoned people to the council. We're all on the council now. Dave is the city manager now. We all have to accept accountability for where we are. And I'm willing to accept that accountability, you know, and I did email you those suggestions. So and this is not, again, anything against staff. We are going to have to make deeper cuts. I want staff to understand that I have to be accountable to residents. The residents elected me. You know, and that's where it is, the residents. And when I'm out in the community, the residents, they question me. They may not come to this council meeting, but they question me consistently, and my phone blows up during the day while I'm at work on my job. So, and lastly, I do want to address the lady who brought in the letter on Marvin, because she reached out to me and said, well, Councilwoman, no, I'm afraid to come to the council meeting and speak because will I be arrested? You know, so I want to know if we can work together, you know, if there's any type of mediation. It's just that I don't support staff being, and I'm going to finish so you can have your voice. I don't support anyone being verbally abused. That's not how we handle things at all. You know, I've been on this council since 2021. I've been frustrated, but no one can say I verbally abused them. I would hope, you know. Residents are really, really frustrated. They just really, really are about the decline in many areas, and I talk about it in every council meeting, and you all know that. And I just want us to be able to work together to bring resolution. And I know things take time and some matters take more time. However, we still have to be accountable to the residents. So thank you all for listening to that. And please, sir.
No, I would like to address that in particular. I was gonna wait till my turn. So on that occasion, she did come in to complain about the house next door. She verbally escalated the situation. 2 employees actually came out to try to calm her down and discuss what was going on. And she grabbed one by the arm multiple times and escalated the situation, got out of hand. Police had to be called. Same thing happened later in the day, same situation, grabbed a different employee by the arm and kind of jerked them around, called police again. I was instructed in order to trespass her, I had to type up a letter. After the physical assault by the individual, I felt the letter was appropriate at the time. I'd be more than happy to speak with her. I actually tried to call on the phone after that. She doesn't have voicemail on her phone though. So that's where I'm at right now, just to be clear.
To her and try to set up some type of meeting. Are you willing to?
I mean, you know my schedule the next week. It might
Well, no,
be a
not
little
the
hit and
next
miss.
week. No, not
I
the
am
next
more
week.
than
I'm
happy
just-
to have a discussion with her, try to address the situations at hand, even talk about actions that are appropriate, not appropriate in the city hall environment. And as long as we can come to a conclusion, I'm perfectly fine disregarding that. I just want you to understand why she was trespassed when she was.
Okay, I'm going to reach out to her and I'll follow up with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Councilwoman Covington?
I'm sorry I couldn't be there today in person. I am sick. I won't last long because my voice is leaving. But I guess I'll see you guys Thursday, and I'll see everybody on Saturday.
Yeah, hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Councilman Kazak.
People, there are a lot of people that are upset about the decline in the appearance of our community. That's certainly true. And I get calls about that pretty regularly. I get calls about problems with crime, and I tell people, call the police and make a report. And then once that's done, we can go from there if you don't feel there's an appropriate response. But people are upset about appearance until the code enforcement guy puts a red tag on their door. I got a letter in the mail a couple of weeks ago saying I had a dead tree in the backyard of one of my properties. And so I went over there to look. I couldn't think of a dead tree there, but you know, trees die and I miss it. So I went over there to look, and in fact, it was a dead tree in the yard of the house behind me that had been actually dead for a long time, but you know, I don't get in other people's business like that. So I came to City Hall and I said, you know, sorry, but it's not my tree. And so they went and put a red tag on that resident's door. And then the next day, I get this email that went to the city manager and to Councilman Franklin, and I'm not sure who else, saying, well, I think I was targeted, the Cassoff, Cassoff said that the FNIP program ran out of money, and then all of a sudden I'm getting a tree violation. Well, I'm sorry to the lady for that she got a tree violation, but they gave it to me first, and I've still got the paper on my desk. And I'm sorry for her because it's probably a $5,000 tree. It's an enormous tree, and it's all the way in the back of her yard, and I don't know if there's even a good way to get back there. So, and I have other people, for every person that calls me to complain about their neighbor's grass, I have somebody else call me to say they wrote me up because my grass was too long, but it wasn't. So, that's the difficulty we have as elected officials and as code enforcement staff. And it's a delicate balance that we have in, on the one hand, enforcing the rules and keeping our community looking nice, and on the other hand, having some common sense and understanding for people who maybe don't have the ability to take care of some things. And so I've always said that what we need to do is focus on the low-hanging fruit. There's always that one house that they haven't bought a gallon of paint in 30 years, and you can tell. There were a couple of houses on Adele that they were living in, and you could see the sky if you looked in the front window of the house, and they finally ended up getting demolished. But it always irks somebody when they've got a house that's clearly going to be a tear down and soon, and probably already should have, and has 100 code violations that have been out there for 6 months. And meanwhile, they let their grass get half an inch too long because it rained and their guy didn't show up, and they get the nasty gram from the city, and then they call us mad about it. So it's a delicate balance, and all I can say is we're doing the best we can. Councilman Franklin?
So I'd just like to invite everybody out to the Juneteenth celebration this weekend. It's going to be a great event. I believe next weekend, City of Dalewood will have their event as well. So definitely come out, meet some of your neighbors, get some FaceTime with some of your elected officials, and just have a good time fellowshipping. Thank you.
Councilman Williams?
So make no mistake about it. Ferguson is a multi-million-dollar corporation. It has shareholders, which are taxpayers or stockholders. A lot of times shareholders have input or advice that they give the corporation, but the corporation has to maintain profitability and to stay open. So sometimes the concerns of the citizens are not always valid. But the sole purpose of a corporation is to be profitable and stay in business. Ferguson is a multi-million-dollar corporation. So I just want to go over some of the numbers that Kassoff was mentioning. So we were short $600,000, or we needed to cut $600,000. The fire department stepped up and cut $300,000. So we needed the police department to step up and cut $300,000. The police chief said it's not possible, but he did manage to come up with a $112,000 cut. The consent agenda right now, we budgeted $25,000 per month. If we only fund it for 2 months, that's $50,000. We would have $250,000 that we can put to this budget and save the remaining jobs. So we wouldn't totally defund it. We would only fund it for 2 months. But if that's not cool, let's fund it for 4 months, which is $100,000, correct? So when we put that $200,000 to the police, that satisfies it. So the public information officer, the captain, a white shirt or whatever, we wouldn't have to get rid of them. That's low hanging fruit. So I want to go over those numbers to make sure people understand. And as far as the budget meeting Thursday, I'm not coming. I am not coming. We have low hanging fruit that's there. People are not willing to make that because of the optics and the NAACP. Screw the NAACP. We have to put our oxygen mask on first before we can help other people. Low hanging fruit. So you didn't want Project Butterfly. We wouldn't even be having this. So that's over. So now it's reality has hit the fan. Let's fund it for 100,000, keep it moving. And we won't have to cut parts and go into it. So I'm telling you right now, excuse me, go ahead and make an excuse asking. Thursday, I'm not gonna be here. I have a lot going on. And to try to tell people the realization, like I run a corporation and a business. If I did the stuff that we're doing here, I would be out of business. And it's making me so upset because I'm talking about nobody's hearing me out. So I am a no on the budget unless we do that. I'm not coming any other time. I'm wasting my time coming, saying the same thing and nobody's listening to me. Thank you, God bless, and good night.
City Manager Musgrave?
Yeah, I really don't have much, but I did want to point out that you officially did not plan a meeting for Thursday. So if you want to visit that as far as time, date for the next budget session, I would appreciate it so we can get it posted. But I have nothing for miscellaneous.
We should
I've
do
already
that
said it.
before we adjourn, Thursday at 6. Okay,
What
we just need,
about you?
I'll call a meeting for Thursday at 6. We need a second person.
Second, if we can know.
Okay, it's Thursday at
So
6.
Thursday at 6. I did want to say on the record, like I've told council this, I don't want to make these cuts. Like this is not glamorous. This is not fun. I realize that half the city hates me right now. PD probably hates my guts. Fire hates my guts. I mean, I get it. I have a big bullseye on my back. I don't want to do this, but the bottom line, and I've said it from the beginning, if we don't balance this budget, no one will have a job in 18 to 24 months. That's the bottom line. Like this is not glamorous. It's not something I enjoy. So I apologize with the sideways glares. I know it's hard to control, but that's the reality. I'm in a tough situation. We all are, and we've got to buck up and do it. So I just want that to be clear. That's all I got.
Wish you were Parks Director yet?
Clerk London?
I have nothing.
Deputy? Attorney? You have anything going this
I have
evening?
nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. All I want to just reinforce is come out to Juneteenth. It's gonna be a great event. Hydrate. If you do come out, it's supposed to be hot. Okay. Hydrate. It's gonna be hot. Come out to Juneteenth. Great event. We're gonna have a lot of events, a lot of health and wellness. It'll be great. Everybody's invited. And I want to thank the citizens that did come out this evening and the ones that stayed through this grueling meeting. Thank you, citizens. We appreciate you. And that'll be it. And is there a motion and a second?
Second.
All in favor? Ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned.
It's off the record, but my wife ordered me a Chick-fil-A sitting there, I'm pretty bummed.
I thought you would say you had time for us too.
No, they closed at 10, so I was like.
More meetings in one.
Okay.